You were once celebrated as a world-class musical prodigy. Yet, on the very night of your greatest triumph, corporate vultures framed you as a pathetic plagiarist, casting you into the abyss. You buried your genius and chose a quiet life, content to be a humble, mild-mannered teacher in Jiangcheng. You believed that yielding would secure your family's peace, until that fateful day your 4-year-old daughter was cornered by your enemy's son. Her drawing board was crushed, and she was covered in filth. Sobbing, she tugged at your sleeve and asked, "Daddy, they said you're a thief. Does that make Xingxing a thief's daughter too? Is it true?" You offered no words in reply. You simply scooped her up into your arms, turned, and stepped back into that brutal arena you abandoned for a decade. On this day, you had just finished packing star-shaped cookies for your daughter when your phone buzzed with an urgent text from her teacher. Xingxing was being ruthlessly bullied at school. Her precious drawing board had been trampled to pieces. Consumed by worrying, you rushed to the scene. The moment you arrived at the school, the sight before you made your blood boil with primal rage. In the center of a mocking crowd, 4-year-old Xingxing was collapsed on the plastic track. Her once pristine pink princess dress was now drenched in muddy water, a jagged scrape marring her delicate knee, with beads of crimson blood starting to ooze. And there, lying discarded on the ground, was her favorite blue drawing board, now snapped completely in half. Standing defiantly over Xingxing was a bloated, chubby little boy. He stood with hands on his hips, lifting his chin with insufferable, smug arrogance. And behind the boy stood a woman draped in designer La Belsa nanny with heavily caked-on makeup. She didn't lift a finger to stop the cruelty. Instead, she wore a haughty, condescending sneer, looking down at the trembling girl. "You're nothing but a dirty thief, and your daddy is a thief, too." The brat pointed his finger right at Xingxing's face, his voice shrill and piercing. "My daddy told me your father is a massive, lying fraud. He stole my daddy's songs to become the champion. The daughter of a plagiarist doesn't deserve to draw near my board." The words plagiarism dog hit you like a sledgehammer, shattering against your eardrums. Memories from 10 years ago surged back like a torrential flood breaching a dam. Those festering wounds you thought had been buried forever by time were, at this very moment, being effortlessly torn wide open by a mere 4-year-old child. "My daddy is not a thief." Xingxing's tiny face flushed bright red, tears welling up and swirling in her eyes. Yet she bit her lip hard to keep them from falling, reaching out with her mud-stained little hand, desperately trying to salvage her broken drawing board. "My daddy is the greatest music teacher in the whole world." "You're a liar." "No, I'm not. My daddy is Zhang Kun, the biggest superstar on the planet right now. He told me so himself." Xingxing finally reached her breaking point. The surrounding whispers vanished instantly. The nanny turned her head, and as you stepped forward, a flicker of pure disgust flashed in her eyes. She opened her mouth with a sarcastic, biting sneer. "Oh, Teacher Lin has finally arrived. The kids were just playing around, but your daughter insisted on snatching our young master's paintbrush. She just tripped and fell on her own. I'm telling you, Teacher Lin, since your family is struggling, you should teach your kids some proper manners. Don't you dare let her touch other people's belongings without permission. If these thieving habits are in her blood, imagine what she become when she grows up." The sheer malice of those words cut like a venomous blade. Several nearby parents who recognized the truth behind that decade-old scandal instantly wore dark expressions, leaning in to whisper and gossip amongst themselves. "So he's actually the infamous Lin Yan from back then. No wonder he looks so hauntingly familiar. I heard the fallout was incredibly ugly. He nearly dragged Xingyao Media down with him. How is a person like that even allowed to teach? To think he'd bring his kid to our school, doesn't that just lower the prestige of this place?" You ignored every single one of them, walking straight toward your daughter and dropping to one knee on the filthy track. Pulling out a tissue, you gently wiped away the muddy water from her face, bit by bit. "Daddy ... The second Xingxing saw you, her forced bravado completely shattered. She lunged into your embrace, her tears instantly soaking through your faded white shirt, her tiny frame convulsing with violent sobs, fractured by a mix of paralyzing fear and sheer injustice. "Daddy, they said you were a thief. They said Xingxing is just a thief's daughter too." She looked up, her face stained by tears. Those eyes that usually sparkled with the brilliance of stars were now clouded with painful confusion and a desperate need for truth. "Daddy didn't steal anything, right? Daddy taught Xingxing that we never take things that don't belong to us. Daddy didn't steal someone else's songs, did he? Your heart felt as if it were being crushed by a rusted iron fist. Years ago, after a high fever, you awakened the complete memories of a parallel Earth. In that instant, countless era-defining masterpieces flooded your mind with overwhelming clarity. You only had to release a single track to take a talentless hack like John Chunsomeone built entirely on corporate hype and grind him into literal dust. But you chose restraint. You looked at your newborn daughter sleeping in her cradle, and at your wife who sacrificed her brilliant future to toil day and night for you. You weren't afraid of Jong Kun, though, but you've retreated for 10 long years, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing but your enemy's relentless advance, nothing but corporate vultures unleashing their toxic malice directly onto your 4-year-old daughter. You thought hiding in the shadows would shield them, failing to realize that once you lose your predatory fangs, your very weakness becomes your ultimate sin. No, Daddy isn't a thief. Your voice was unnervingly calm, deceptively quiet like a volcano about to erupt. You pulled your daughter into a protective embrace, your calloused hands gently patting her trembling back. Daddy promises you this. No one can steal what belongs to us, and everything they was. I will collect every single debt with interest on brutal payment at a time. You stood up, cradling your daughter in your arms, then turned your gaze toward the nanny and the brat. As your eyes swept over the nanny, an inexplicable chill raced down her spine, forcing her to stagger back a step. What are you staring at? She shrieked, her bravado crumbling. I lying. Mr. Jong Kun is about to start his national tour. You're just a disgraced, washed-up artist. What are you going to do, hit me? You didn't waste a single breath on her. You simply spoke with chilling composure. Go tell Jong Kun that his worst nightmare is about to begin. With that, you carried your daughter away, walking through the crowd's judging stares, exiting the kindergarten gate without a single backward glance. The scattered, star-shaped cookies you dropped on the floor were caught by the wind, scattering across the cold pavement as night fell over the Jiancheng University faculty housing complex. When Su Chengyuan pushed open the door to her home, the house wasn't bathed in its usual warm, welcoming glow. Tonight, only a sliver of weak light seeped through the bedroom door's crack. Su Chengyuan dropped her lesson plans at the entryway, not even bothering to kick off her high heels before rushing toward the bedroom. She pushed the door open. You open your eyes to find Crossing asleep, tear tracks still drying on her face. Her tiny hand death grips your shirt while you sit in the bedside shadows, resembling a silent, motionless statue draped in suffocating stillness. I got the call from the preschool, Su Qingyuan whispered, approaching the bed with deep pity as she tucked the blanket around her daughter. Her voice betrayed no hint of panic, but the slight tremor in her fingertips exposed the fury raging within. You didn't look up, merely prying the corner of your shirt gently from your daughter's grasp, then slowly rose to your feet. You took Su Qingyuan's hand and led her out. The living room remained dark, illuminated only by the city's neon glow bleeding through the balcony. Zhang Chen's son is named Zhang Ziguan. He just transferred into Sunflower Preschool this Monday. Su Qingyuan poured you a glass of warm water, her tone laced with a bone-chilling coldness. Ximenia poured a fortune this year into rebranding Zhang Chen as the savior of Chinese pop. But within the industry, critics are absolutely trashing his latest album. He is both guilty and terrified. So, when he stumbled upon Crossing Xing's preschool, he resorted to this incredibly cheap, disgusting tactic just to test you. Su Qingyuan knew Zhang Chen all too well, perhaps even better than you did. For 10 years, while you desperately tried to bury the past, she had been quietly tracking every single move made by Xingyao Media. What is he trying to test? You stared at the ripples in your water glass, your voice raspy like sandpaper against stone. He is testing to see if you have truly become a spineless coward who won't even speak up when his own daughter is being targeted and tormented. Su Qingyuan's gaze was razor-sharp, cutting through the dark like ice. She drew a slow, heavy breath, her voice laced with a haunting desolation. Lin Yan, you have nowhere left to retreat. Indeed, there was no more ground to give. You slammed the glass onto the coffee table, the dull, heavy thud shattering the deathly silence of the room. You strode out onto the balcony, staring at the brilliantly lit city that offered you nothing but cold malice. A decade of suppressed fury nearly burst from your chest. For 10 years, you spent every night brainwashing yourself, believing that as long as you abandoned music and played the role of a perfect husband and father, the nightmares of your past would never find you. But reality proved that compromise never buys peace, it only invites ruthless bullying. King Yuan, you said, suddenly turning to face your wife. Within those eyes that were usually so gentle, a dormant spark began to flicker and ignite. It was a long-buried, sharp, lethal resolve breaking from its cocoon. You had finally made up your mind, so King Yuan wasn't surprised in the least. She simply stood there, quiet and unwavering, just as she did 10 years ago when the world spat on you. You gave a slow, deliberate nod. Yes, I'm ready. Since they think I'm dead and buried, I'll crawl out of hell and sing. To keep King Yuan's eyes instantly welled with tears, but she bit her lip, refusing to let them fall. She hurried over to the television cabinet and reached into the very bottom drawer, pulling out a single brass key. The metal was warm, embodying a decade of silent waiting. She pressed the key into your hand, her voice choked yet incredibly firm. Go. It has been waiting for you for a very long time. Gripping that warm brass key, you turned and headed down the hallway toward that tightly sealed, forgotten door. Each step you took was heavy, stable, and powerful. The lock turned in the darkness with a crisp metallic click, sounding as if 10 years of shackles had finally shattered. The lights to the study surged to life, cold white light instantly flooding the room and illuminating the absolute resolve in your eyes. You pulled back the chair and sat down. Pressing the power button on the computer tower, you watched the screen flicker to life. You deftly opened the browser, your fingers dancing across the keys as the page redirected to reveal the bold, striking title, The Vinyl Era. This was currently the most hyped, enigmatic new music show online. The producers claimed a total ban on corporate interference, enforcing a blind audition format with masked performers. The judges wouldn't see your face, wouldn't care about your status, and wouldn't dig into your past. Everything relied solely on the original song and the raw, destructive power of the music itself. You clicked the registration portal and typed time as your stage alias, a decade of lost years condensed into a single word. With that step complete, a notification popped up. Please upload your preliminary demo audio file. Original works only. Duration must be no less than 120 seconds. You reached for the monitoring headphones and slid them on. Plugging your guitar into the audio interface, you pulled the microphone stand close and shut your eyes. In your mind, a masterpiece from Earth titled Life in Full Bloom began to manifest with crystalline clarity. That rock anthem, saturated with despair, struggle, fury, and unyielding determination, was a battle song tailor-made for this exact moment. Your guitar strumming sounded like a raging inferno, raw and possessed by a desperate energy that instantly consumed the entire room. You leaned into the microphone. Your voice, silent for 5 long years, was now seasoned by suppression, making it raspy, yet that rasp gave the song a breathtaking, soul-crushing depth. I want to transcend this mundane life, without any traps, without any pretense. You kept your gaze lowered, like a traveler who had wandered the abyss for 10 years. As the final note faded, the lingering vibrations trembled in the air, refusing to settle. You slowly removed your headphones, your gaze now terrifyingly cold, and icy, untouchable or irradiated from your entire being. With a sharp click of the mouse, you dragged the freshly recorded demo straight into the submission box. You hit send. The progress bar flashed to completion. Instantly, a green check mark popped onto the screen. Registration successful. Please await the production team's review. Leaning back, you stared out into the pitch-black night, a cold, fierce smirk flickering across your lips. Zhangchen, enjoy your final moments. Meanwhile, on the 18th floor of the television building, the heart of the Vinyl Era Production Center, it was 2:30 in the morning. Yet the entire floor remained ablaze with fluorescent lights, the bitter stench of black coffee and stale tobacco swirling through the heavy, stifling atmosphere until it made chests feel tight. Several directors slumped over their desks wearing heavy monitoring headphones, eyes glazed as they stared at their screens, watching the rising and falling audio waveforms. They barely had the strength left to even rub their eyes. Next track, muttered Chief Director Chen Che, ripping off his headphones. Massaging the bridge of his bloodshot nose, he grabbed a bottle of ice water and downed it, his Adam's apple bobbing. He spoke with unmistakable irritation and exhaustion. What kind of trash are we selecting now? Intros plagiarized from obscure foreign tracks, choruses using the same generic, overused chords layered under thick autotune and excessive editing. And they have the audacity to call this original. Do these people have a total misunderstanding of the word? Nearby, CZ, the casting coordinator, gave a bitter smile. He set aside his headphones and handed over a thin, underwhelming list, his voice laced with helplessness. Director Chen, you know the state of the music industry better than anyone. Ever since Starry Media's assembly line idol manufacturing model took over the market, the major charts are choked with fan-manufactured industrial trash. The genuinely gifted independent musicians are either starving and forced into other careers, or pressured into churning out brainless, 3-second viral garbage. But our show's core is blind listening. We wanted pure originality regardless of status. We set the bar sky high, but 80% of applicants are clout-chasing influencers, and the remaining 20% is just pretentious, shallow, copycat drivel. Chenka slammed his fist onto the desk, sending his coffee splashing out to form a dark, jagged stain on the surface. Keep digging. Even if you have to tear this inbox apart, keep searching. Find me just one decent, soulful track. Chenka gritted his teeth, his eyes burning with a desperate, obsessive fire. Zijiao sighed heavily, before dragging the mouse to refresh the primary inbox, which was drowning under tens of thousands of unread submissions. Suddenly, he knit his brows. Director Chen, look, a new email just landed 10 minutes ago. The application form is practically a ghost town. No professional history, no signed record label. The name it just says 2 words Tom. Zijiao squinted at the minimalist information, his tone dripping with skepticism. There isn't even a proper backing track, just a single, raw vocal and instrument, and the background noise is terrible. It looks like it was recorded at home on some cheap, random microphone. Play it, Chenka commanded, his voice hollow with absolute exhaustion. He had already abandoned all hope. An amateur who couldn't even afford a studio was likely just another guitar-strumming dreamer with zero technical skill or actual talent. Zijiao clicked the play button. The speakers first crackled with a faint electric hiss of low-quality static. After a few seconds of dead air, a crisp, jagged, almost primal and savage guitar riff tore through the room without warning. It exploded through the deathly silent office with a thunderous crash. At the very first chord, Director Chen bolted upright in his chair, his exhaustion evaporating instantly. He could hear it clearly, the raw, unadulterated sound of an acoustic guitar, completely devoid of artificial post-processing, yet vibrating with a tension that made his scalp tingle. As the song reached its end, the speakers returned to a heavy silence, leaving only the faint hiss of static white noise. The entire production room was pin-drop silent for 30 long seconds. Not a single soul dared to speak. Everyone was drowning in the deep aftershocks of having their souls shaken, unable to snap back to reality. What kind of monster is this? Zijiao swallowed hard, his voice trembling uncontrollably. He had clawed his way through the music industry for years, but he had never witnessed songwriting or vocals of this caliber. This wasn't just a contestant entering a show, this was a god coming down to sweep the floor and crush everyone. Coming to his senses, Chenka lunged out of his seat and grabbed Zijiao by the shoulders, his tone frantic and absolute. Contact him now. I don't care what it takes or how you do it. Just sign this time immediately. Save the grand finale slot of the day for him. Go now. It was 7 a.m., and Jiangcheng was graced with a rare, clear sky. The golden morning sun pierced through the weathered windows of your old apartment, spilling softly across the dining table. The kitchen sizzled with the sound of frying eggs, mingling with the savory aroma of pork and century egg congee wafting through your entire home. The bedroom door creaked open, and Su Qingyuan emerged, leading a sleepy-eyed Xiang. At the sight of you standing by the table, Su Qingyuan paused, her cold, elegant gaze flickering with a whirlwind of emotion, church, relief, and a final, uncheckable resolve. She knew better than anyone that the once dazzling genius who ruled the stage had finally, officially returned. Daddy. Xiang rubbed her groggy eyes. Spotting the golden fried eggs on the table, she immediately scrambled toward you on her tiny legs, her lingering sorrow from yesterday not yet fully faded. With her eyes still slightly puffy and red, yet the moment she tilted her head to look at you, a soft, sweet smile blossomed across her face. You crouched down low, scooping your daughter securely into your arms, using your faint, rough stubble to gently nuzzle her tender little cheek, making her erupt into a fit of giggles. Xiang, stay home with mommy today, okay? Daddy has to go take care of something very important. You spoke in a soft murmur, your gaze so tender it could melt iron. Where are you going, Daddy? Are you going to school to teach the big sisters how to sing? Your voice was steady and packed with power. No, Xing, Daddy is going to take back what rightfully belongs to us. Once breakfast was finished, Su Qingyuan brought a black backpack from the bedroom and placed it gently into your hands. I checked earlier this morning. Final era recording hall is at the TV station center, and security there is incredibly tight. Su Qingyuan's tone was calm, as natural as if she were telling you to buy groceries, yet every syllable was heavy with meticulous planning. The first few rounds are blind auditions. I have already prepared a mask for you. Until you have secured absolute leverage, do not let them see your face. If the vultures at Qingyao Media find out you are back, they will stop at nothing to sabotage you midway. You pulled the zipper of the backpack open. Lin Yan, the moment your hand gripped the cold metal doorknob, Su Qingyuan suddenly called out to you in a soft voice. You turned back slowly, the morning light outlining your wife's ethereal, elegant features. A breathtaking, soul-stirring smile rippled in her eyes. She offered no worried warnings or nagging concerns, merely locking her gaze onto yours, stating each word with heavy emphasis. Go show them what true musical destiny looks like. Guitar on your back, you stepped into the morning Glareth man once hailed as a once-in-a-generation creative genius. The legendary you finally bid farewell to the shadows to re-enter the musical battlefield, currently choked by the toxic smog of corporate greed. At 2 p.m., backstage at the Zhongqing TV main broadcast hall, over 100 contestants who survived the prelims were crammed into the massive waiting lounge. The production rules were strictly enforced. Everyone had to wear masks to conceal their identities. Yet, with a single practiced sweep of your eyes, you could see right through the surface-level theatrics. Those wearing bespoke, hand-tailored suits and limited-edition streetwear accessories, flanked by massive, bustling teams of assistants, made it painfully obvious who was who. It was easy to spot the silver spoon heirs sent by Big Capital versus the genuine amateurs gambling everything on a dream. In a secluded corner of the waiting hall, you found a simple plastic folding chair and sat down. The geometric white mask shielded the upper half of your face, your worn, weathered black guitar case standing at your feet. The cacophony of chaotic rehearsals and the frantic whispering of managers seemed to be blocked by an invisible, impenetrable barrier, unable to disturb your focus in the slightest. With hands folded calmly over your knees and eyes half closed, you remained completely indifferent to the outside noise. You didn't care for the gossip circulating in clusters, nor did you mind the curious gazes drifting your way. At this moment, deep within your mind, you are rapidly sorting through the monumental library of musical arrangements within your memories of Earth. Those soul-shaking masterpieces of art flowed through your mind like a brilliant, cosmic river, leaving your very soul trembling in awe. Look at that guy in the mask, acting all deep. He doesn't even have a single, and your guitar case is literally peeling. How can a broke amateur like you even qualify for the vinyl era? Nearby, a few young men wearing extravagant feathered masks and clad in high-end sequin suits are huddled together, whispering in derision. They are the latest trainees signed by Xingyao Media this year, while the company pushes Zhang Kun as their top star. They still need a massive influx of fresh blood to seize every bit of exposure on the show. This group is exactly that fodder for the machine. The producers probably just dragged you in as cannon fodder. What good is strumming a beat-up acoustic guitar these days? Without a $1 million arrangement team and marketing accounts hyping you up in Ushin and Yukata, even if you sing like an angel, it is a total waste of time. You do not even bother to lift an eyelid, your heart remaining completely untroubled. Why would an elephant ever care about the mockery of ants? 10 minutes until recording begins. Attention, all contestants, listen up as we restate the rules. This debut stage features a blind listening and screening format. There is only one spotlight in the main hall. The 4 resident mentors will have their backs to the stage. Within the 90-second performance limit, if at least one mentor presses their button to spin around, you advance to the next round. If no one turns by the end of your set, the stage passage will immediately seal and you are disqualified. The assistant director holds a megaphone, bellowing at the top of his lungs in the center of the waiting hall. As the rules are finalized, the atmosphere in the room tightens to the absolute breaking point. The very air seems to have solidified. This brutal, make-or-break style of gameplay, for those who live off their looks and fan-voted hype, is nothing short of a truth-revealing mirror, leaving no room to hide their superficiality. You slowly open your eyes toes deep, calm orbs beneath the white mask, without a single trace of panic. The recording speed for the first few groups is shockingly outrageous, with ruthless disqualifications announced. Echoing constantly through the hall, contestant number 1 has finished, 0 votes, eliminated. Contestant number 2, 60 seconds have elapsed, forcefully stopped by mentors, 0 votes, eliminated. It is a massacre of near-constant failures, without a shred of mercy or sentiment. On the panel sit for industry titans, Dingwei, a veteran critic notorious for his poisoned tongue, Yaka, an old-school rocker with 20 years of indie grit, the pop empress Hanbing, and Li Yuan, the famously exacting gold medal producer. These four are like insurmountable peaks, mercilessly crushing the flawed, industrial-grade trash trying to sneak past their ears. What on earth is going through the heads of today's youth? If our creative scene is reduced to these hollow, patchwork plastic flowers, then Mandopop might as well be buried alive. From the panel, Dingwei unleashes his verbal barrage into the mic, his voice overflowing with utter disappointment. The audience is plunged into a deathly silence. No one dares to challenge the venomous titan. The oppressive tension reaches its absolute peak. Next contestant, codename 017. Time, the cold, mechanical female voice broadcasts. It is finally your turn. The heavy curtains part slowly, and every light in the house is instantly snuffed out, leaving only a single, bone-white spotlight burning in the center of the stage. You emerge from the darkness with measured steps, your tall, imposing silhouette caught in the beam. The geometric white mask seals your upper face, revealing only your sharp, chiseled jawline and tightly pressed lips. You did not arrive like the previous contestants, armed with massive backing tracks or a choreographed dance crew. In your hand, you carry only a weathered acoustic guitar that has seen many years. Minimalist to the extreme and fierce to the core, you walk to the standing microphone, pull over a high stool, and sit down, cradling the guitar securely in your arms. You reach out to micro-adjust the microphone height. During this entire process, you do not utter a single word, not even glancing toward the audience or the mentor panel. That sense of absolute isolation from the world, paired with your lethal composure under the harsh spotlight, forges an eerie yet overwhelming aura. It holds the entire room in a death grip. At the judges' table, the four mentors with their backs turned frown slightly. They cannot see your face, but the sound coming through their headphones is terrifyingly clean. No auto-tune, no cluttered electronic synths prepping in the background. Only the subtle sound of fingers plucking strings, the minute friction of a sound check. It is impossible, probably pure acoustic guitar and vocals. The old-school rocker Yaka glances at the monitor, muttering under his breath, "This kid has serious guts." On stage, you draw a massive breath, filling your lungs not just with the chilled air of the studio, but with 10 years of suppressed, storming rage. The endless nights spent struggling in the mire, the image of your daughter sobbing helplessly by the slide. Each scene flashes through your mind like lightning. A decade of accumulated hate and resentment surges to the boiling point. At this very second, a jagged, raw guitar riff tears through the air, instantly shredding the silence of the hall. It feels like a rusted iron sledgehammer brutally smashing into everyone's chest, vibrating through their very souls. Then, you lean into the microphone, your low, raspy voice finally echoing out. The moment the first note hits, all fermenters bolt upright in their seats, their faces masks of pure shock. Pop Empress Hanbing tightens her grip on her pen, unbelief swirling in the depths of her eyes. She whispers, "This voice ... it carries a lifetime of pain." The once indifferent crowd below feels as if an invisible hand has seized their throats, even their breathing becoming shallow and cautious, terrified of breaking the suffocating tension. Your left hand dances across the frets, your right hand strumming intensity doubling, layering emotion upon all emotion. Like a man carrying a crushing boulder, a prisoner scaling a jagged cliffside, every step treads the thin line between life and death. Then, without a single warning, the chorus explodes. With a thunderous roar, you throw your head back and your suppressed voice suddenly rockets upward, transforming into a primal scream that tears through the heavens. Snap! The exact microsecond the chorus hits, the old rocker Yaka can no longer contain his shock, slamming his hand down on the red button without hesitation. A heartbeat later, two more sharp cracks echo almost simultaneously. Hanbing and Li Yuan also decisively slap their buttons. My God. As her chair spins around, Hanbin covers her mouth with both hands, staring at you as you meld into one with your guitar under the light, her arms instantly erupting in goosebumps. She is shaken beyond all measure. Only the harsh critic Ding Wei remains with his back still turned to the stage. His eyes are clamped shut, his hands death gripping the armrest of his chair, his breathing ragged and heavy with raw excitement. As the most fastidious ears in the entire industry, he knows the sheer weight of this song better than anyone. Lyrics saturated with deep philosophical meaning, a melodic progression that shatters the shackles of mainstream pop, and that primal, savage vitality, devoid of any industrial assembly line traces. This is not just a song. It is a masterpiece worthy of being etched into the history of Chinese music forever. Those eyes, usually so cynical and hypercritical, are now overflowing with an undeniable, frenzied heat. Contestant, I must ask you one question. The lyrics, the melody, the arrangementing cling that nearly savage vocal style just now, did you truly complete all of this entirely on your own? You sit perched on the high stool, your gaze behind the mask as calm as a still lake. You lean into the mic and utter a single word. Yes. A genius. No. This is a monster. Ding Wei mutters to himself, before his volume suddenly rockets upward, pointing at the audience as he shouts with fervor, do you even realize what he just accomplished with nothing but a basic, with just an acoustic guitar? You stripped away every commercial synthesizer from the pop music machine, using raw emotional power to tear down every chart-topping hit on the market and crush them. This is true originality, the raw, unfiltered energy that music is meant to have. Ding Wei grew so electrified he bolted to his feet, ready to throw a massive offer your way. I don't care who is hiding under that mask or what your past holds, this song, Life in Full Bloom, is enough to carve your name into the very bedrock of Chinese music. Join my independent label and name your own price. The moment he said that, the backstage contestants gasped in shock. Ding Wei was famous for being a stingy miser and a strict lone wolf. For him to personally offer a deal was like winning a once-in-a-lifetime lottery. Before you could even answer, Kelko slammed the table, cutting him off. You are crossing the line, Ding. There is scouting, and then there is outright hijacking. Time, join my band instead. I will make you the lead singer and headline our national tour next year. Hanbin smiled warmly, her eyes filled with admiration. You two are too niche. Time, your talent, deserves a massive stage. If you join me, I will give you my top-tier production team and personally produce your next album. These three industry titans had ignited a massive signing war in the very first round. This historic, wild moment had the director pumping his fist backstage. This was pure viral gold. Every single eye in the room locked onto you, waiting for tears of joy as you made your choice. But you just stood up with calm grace, slung your guitar back over your shoulder, and spoke with absolute resolve. I appreciate the incredible offer from the judges, but I did not come here for fame. I do not need the empty promise of a record label. I am just a man who lost things that mattered, and I am here to reclaim what is mine. Debt by debt, until the ledger is balanced. I care about nothing else. With that, you gave a quiet nod, picked up your battered black guitar case, and walked into the backstage shadows. Arrogant, he is out of his mind. Backstage, the Xingyao media trainees were seething with anger, their eyes burning with bitter jealousy. They were drowning in resentment, completely powerless. 3 days later, on Friday at 8:12, the premiere of the Vinyl Era launched on Yongqing TV and 3 major streaming platforms. By 9:30 p.m., as the show neared its end, most viewers were completely bored by the mediocre acts. The live comment section was practically dead with only a few lazy remarks, until you stepped onto the stage wearing your white half mask. For 90 seconds, millions of viewers experienced a pure, jaw-dropping baptism of the soul. In just 2 hours, Life in Full Bloom and your name shattered the corporate marketing hype, storming directly into the top 10 trending topics on Weibo. The engagement was exploding at an absolute, insane rate. At that exact moment, in the heart of the city's central business district, inside the penthouse of Xingyao Media, Zhang Chen sat perched on a luxurious leather sofa, swirling a glass of expensive red wine. His hair was meticulously styled, his high-end makeup flawless, yet a restless boredom filled his eyes. He tossed his tablet onto the table. Sister Hua, how many times do I have to tell you? These music bloggers are writing such obvious, fake fluff pieces. Calling me the new benchmark of pop is just cringe. The public won't buy it. Tell them to focus on how many sleepless nights I spent in the studio. Sister Hua, the mastermind, who helped orchestrate your downfall years ago, had no patience for his petty whining today. She stared at the skyrocketing charts on her phone, her expression grim. John Chen, we have a problem. A huge problem. The premiere of the vinyl era just crowned a massive dark horse with zero hype. His song just landed at number 5 on the charts, completely blocking your new single. John Chen froze, then let out a sharp sneer. Chenka's garbage show, he thinks some nobody can steal my spotlight. Sister Hua, call Wei Ba, kill his trend, and hire bots to trash him. But Sister Hua shook her head, her face pale. We cannot bury this. It is pure organic traffic and the numbers are terrifying. Plus, the quality is insanely high. Just listen to it yourself. She tapped the screen and turned up the volume. Raw acoustic guitar chords echoed through the luxurious office. At first, John Chen looked completely unfazed, a smug smirk still on his face. But the second your deep, raspy voice delivered that first haunting line, his hand froze. Chills shot straight up his spine. That voice, that unique style of phrasing, even though it sounded far more weathered and rugged now, that absolute, commanding control over the music was something he knew only too well. 10 years ago, a young man in a white shirt and dark glasses had used that exact god-tier talent to grind his pride into the dirt, making him a complete laughingstock. John Chen gasped for air, his pupils shrinking in absolute terror as he stared at your white mask. Impossible. He was blacklisted into oblivion. I broke him. He shouldn't even dare to touch a guitar again. The chorus in the video exploded, a soul-shaking anthem echoing through the room. Crash. The wine glass shattered, spilling dark red wine across the expensive white wool rug like a pool of fresh blood. He collapsed onto the sofa, face white as a sheet, fingers trembling. Those cold eyes under your mask were exactly like the ones from 10 years ago, looking down at him with pure contempt. John Chen, have you lost your mind? Sister Hua gasped, rushing to grab his arm. It is him. It is definitely him. John Chen lunged, grabbing her wrist, his voice shrill with absolute panic. Lin Yan, that plagiarizing dog, he is back. Sister Hua's face went pale, but she forced herself to stay calm. Pull yourself together. We buried that scandal 10 years ago. Even if it is him, what can he do? Besides, this guy has a raspier voice. How can you be sure? I know that suffocating pressure. No one else on earth can write a song like this. John Chen was like a cornered beast, jumping up with bloodshot eyes, screaming, investigate him. Use every contact we have to get the backstage records. If it really is him. He trailed off, but the pure terror in his eyes betrayed his cowardice. After 10 years of basking in stolen glory, he could never let the true king rise and reclaim what is rightfully his. But you were already prepared. This war, delayed for a decade, was finally beginning. The early morning injunction is wrapped in a delicate, thin mist. It is a quiet contrast to the massive online storm triggered by your anthem, life in full bloom. Inside your weathered old apartment, your daily life remains as peaceful as a deep, quiet well. In the frying pan, the edges of a golden egg sizzle in hot, delicate oil. You smoothly toss diced ham into the skillet. If the fans who went completely wild for time on their screens last night saw this cozy scene, their eyes would likely pop out in pure disbelief. The cold, arrogant powerhouse from that Stigeti musical giant who crushed the industry's fake hype with one roar is currently wearing an apron covered in cartoon bears, focusing entirely on making your daughter's breakfast. Daddy, can I have the little star cookies again? Lan Yingxing mumbles, rubbing her sleepy eyes as she waddles over to hug your leg like a tiny shadow. You turn off the stove and crouch down, nuzzling your nose against her soft cheek. Of course you can, sweetie. Daddy baked a fresh batch last night, but you have to eat your eggs and milk first. Yeah, sings and claps her tiny hands happily. But then, the little girl's eyes suddenly dim for a moment, her voice dropping to a whisper. Daddy, when I go to school today, will that mean boy come back to stomp on my drawing board? Your hand cutting the ham pauses instantly as you see the deep-seated fear in your daughter's eyes. That quiet fury burning in your chest flares up again. That scumbag Xingyao did not just steal 10 years of your life, he is trying to cast his shadow over a 4-year-old child too. You set down the knife, wash and dry your hands, then gently cup her face in your palms. Your gaze is softer than ever. Xingxing, listen to me. No one can steal what belongs to your father, and I will never let anyone bully you. If that brat dares to bother you again, Look him in the eye and say your daddy is a powerful magician who will make every bad person disappear. Really? Singzing's eyes shine with hope. Of course. When has your father ever lied to you? You offer her a gentle smile, standing up to set breakfast on the table. Right then, Su Qingyuan pushed open the front door. Between her elegant, cool brows was a rare trace of deep exhaustion, yet her eyes shone with an unusual brilliance. Qingyuan, where were you so early? You pour a glass of warm milk and hand it over. Su Qingyuan takes a sip to warm herself, glancing at her daughter who is busy eating her eggs. She lowers her voice. I went to see an old friend, Professor Liu, at Jiangcheng University. 10 years ago, when Xingyao faked the timestamp on that overseas demo, they covered their tracks perfectly. But back then, I secretly saved the raw fragments of the server backend data. Professor Liu spent an entire week on it and finally restored the deleted strings of code. Your pupils contract instantly. That fake timeline was the core evidence used to nail you to the pillar of shame as a plagiarist 10 years ago. Corporate giants can bribe the media and twist public opinion, but cold digital code never lies. Where is the evidence now? Your voice drops to a low, heavy whisper. In an absolutely secure place, an encrypted cloud drive. Su Qingyuan looks up, staring deeply into your eyes. But now is not the time to drop this bombshell. Xingyao Media is too powerful right now. Even if we leak the proof this second, they have the power to kill the trend within 10 minutes. They will just fight back and claim we faked the proof. You finish your wife's line of thought, so we have to wait. Wait for the perfect moment where one shot ends it all. Exactly. Qingyuan nods firmly. Wait until you climb to a position high enough that Xingyao's corporate claws can no longer silence you. Wait until the eyes of the entire internet are locked on you. In that moment, the absolute truth will be the final blow that breaks their backs. Your gazes lock across the room, 10 years of silent, unspoken understanding needing no explanation. After dropping your daughter off at school, you return to your study, bolt the door shut, and draw the heavy curtains. The room is once again plunged into an isolating gloom. You boot up your computer, ignoring the massive wave of praise for life in full bloom flooding the web. That fleeting viral clout means absolutely nothing to you. What you need is to keep mining the massive vault of Earth's greatest hits inside your head. The second round of the vinyl era is a head-to-head match. By the rules, the production team will group you based on initial popularity. If your hunch is correct, Xingyao Media's tentacles are slithering toward the producers right this second. Those corporate sharks will never tolerate an unpredictable variable growing completely out of their control. They will definitely plot to take you out in the next round. Meanwhile, over at the Jiangcheng TV tower, the door to Executive Director Chen Qi's office is violently kicked open. Xingyao Media's power broker, Sister Hua, striding in on 10-centimeter stilettos with 2 black-suited assistants, marches in aggressively. Director Chen, long time no see, Sister Hua sits on the sofa with a fake, cold smile, tossing a gold-stamped contract onto the table. Let's not beat around the bush. Xingyao Media has decided to inject another 30 million into the vinyl era for exclusive naming rights. However, there is just one condition. Chen Cha looks up, glancing at the tempting contract as his eyes turn cold. Sister Hua, quite the grand gesture. But you know my ironclad rules well. A capital has no say in my creative content. Rules are static, yes, but people are adaptable, Director Chen. 30 million is enough to take this low-budget show's production and marketing and lift them by 3 whole tiers. Sister Hua leans forward, her gaze turning razor-sharp. I want every single shred of intel on that contestant codenim time. And for the next PK round, I want you to pair him up against one of our Xingyao artists, then kill his in-ear monitors. Chen Cha bolts upright in his chair, fury instantly rushing to his head. Kill his monitors, that is murder. In a massive broadcasting hall like ours, that means the singer won't hear a single note of the track. They will be off-key, 100% chance of a total train wreck. That is murdering a performer's career on stage. Chen Cha points a trembling finger at the door, his voice shaking with pure rage. In your dreams. I created this show for genuinely talented people to have a clean, untarnished platform. Keep Xingyao's filthy, bottom-tier tactics out of my territory. Get out. Sister Hua seems to have anticipated Chen Qi's explosion. She shows no anger, rising slowly, with practiced elegance instead. Director Chen, Integrity is a noble trait, but in this cutthroat business, integrity alone won't put food on your table. Walking to the door, she turns back with a chilling, sinister smile. Keep your data, it doesn't matter. Jiancheng is only so big. As long as he is out there, I will drag him out of whatever hole he is hiding in. As for the next round, Director Chen, you had better pray your station chief shares your stubborn pride. The door slams shut. Chen Che collapses back into his chair, defeated. He looks at his desk, staring at the audio waveform of life in full bloom, clutching his hair in absolute agony. He knows that once Xinjiao Media moves in for the kill, the crushing weight of that corporate giant is far more than a single director can withstand. 10 minutes later, inside the station chief's office, Chen Che glares at the middle-aged man leisurely sipping tea behind the mahogany desk, his clenched fists so tight that his knuckles are ghostly white. Chiefly, I don't understand. Since the premiere of the vinyl era went live, our ratings and streaming numbers have shattered every station record from the last 3 years. That masked singer known as Time, the entire internet is hunting for his identity. He is our ultimate ratings cheat code. Now you are ordering me to cut his monitor feed and rig the draw against him. How is that any different from personally murdering him? Chiefly set down his purple clay teacup with a shallow, weary sigh. Still, his eyes remain cold and unyielding. Chen Kai, you are still far too naive. The ratings look fantastic, sure. But can ratings alone be exchanged for cold, hard cash? President Chang of Xinjiao Media personally called my private line last night. 30 million in exclusive sponsorship fees was wired into our account this morning. Furthermore, they have guaranteed that for our New Year's gala, Junction will headline for free. So, for 30 million and we are just throwing our integrity in the trash, huh? Chen Kai hissed, his eyes bloodshot with suppressed fury. Chiefly reacted as if he had just heard a punchline, his expression instantly darkening. Integrity, Chen Kai, let us get one thing straight. You work for a television station, not a non-profit charity. Xinjiao's message was loud and clear. They want this time character to humiliate himself in round 2, then get eliminated as a natural consequence. As for whether he is a genius, in this industry, you are only a genius if big money says so. Without a nod from investors, a genius is worth absolutely nothing. If you want to keep sitting in that director's chair, follow orders. I have already notified the audio team. You do not need to lift a finger, just focus on managing your camera angles. Chen Kai's hand slumped in defeat. He knew that in this concrete jungle built on money and power, the integrity of a single director was as insignificant as a grain of sand. Saturday afternoon, Zhengcheng Gymnasium. The vinyl era, round to recording site. Due to the explosive success of the first episode, the crew moved the venue from a small studio to a professional arena holding 3,000 people. In the backstage waiting area, you still wore your signature white geometric mask, sitting silently in a far corner. The surrounding chaos could not touch you. Hey, you are that time guy, right? A voice dripping with contempt shattered the peace of your space. You slowly lifted your head. Standing before you was a young man with silver-dyed hair, dressed in an outfit covered in flashy rhinestones. He was masked too, but his only covered half his face, leaving his heavy eye makeup and arrogant chin exposed. Behind him, 4 assistants fussed over his hair and touched up his makupa massive, arrogant entourage. The silver-haired kid looked down his nose at you, his lips curling into a sneer. The name is Huan Zhang. Do not think that going viral with the tragic folk song in round 1 makes you a big shot. This industry is about real branding and marketability. Once we are out on that stage, I will show you what true dominance looks like. You better pray you do not lose too pathetically. You looked at the plastic idol standing before you, your eyes entirely devoid of anger, filled only with cold indifference. Xinjiao Media's lackeys. Even this brand of blustering stupidity is an exact carbon copy of Young Chen from 10 years ago. You withdrew your gaze, your voice flat, without a single ripple of emotion. Are you finished with your little speech? If you are, move aside. You are blocking my light. Huan Zhang's face stiffened in shock. He was about to explode when his assistant pulled him back. Brother Huan, do not lower yourself to this amateur's level. It is almost time. Sister Huen made it clear this round is already a guaranteed win for us, the assistant whispered urgently into his ear. Huan Zhang let out a cold snort, shot you a vicious glare and turned toward the stage. Ahead, the 4 mentors were already seated. With a sharp cue from the host, the first face-off of round 2 officially ignited. The first to perform was none other than Huan Zhang. Deafening music swept the arena while flashing neon lights flickered across the screens. Huan Zhang, backed by 8 dancers, gyrated frantically across the stage. Hydraulic lifts, flamethrowers, and cold pyrotechnics, every imaginable stage effect was piled onto an overwhelming extreme. He performed a high-tempo electronic rap, mixing English buzzwords into muddled, indistinct Chinese lyrics. Combined with heavy autotune and maxed-out pitch correction, his actual singing ability was buried deep beneath the noise. The young fans in the crowd, hyped by the visual assault, shrieked and waved their glow sticks in a pure frenzy. But at the judges' table, the expressions of the 4 industry titans grew grimmer. Critic Ding Wei's brow furrowed tightly as he ripped off his headphones, treating every extra second as pure torture. Old-school rocker Zhao Qi did not even bother to hide a blatant roll of his eyes. Had it not been for the strict recording rules, he would have slammed the table and started cursing. "You call this garbage an original? Besides that hollow, repetitive beat, what the hell is he even saying?" Ji Hanbing whispered under her breath to Li Wan. Typical assembly line industrial waste, propped up entirely by backing tracks and effects. Li Wan shook his head slowly, his eyes overflowing with disappointment. The 3-minute chaotic frenzy finally reached its end. Huan Zhang struck a pose he thought was cool, his chest heaving violently as he soaked in the deafening shrieks of the crowd. He glanced at the mentors with smug confidence, convinced his victory was guaranteed. Next contestant. Codename time. As the announcement rang out, the cheers in the arena plummeted into a sudden hush before erupting into a roar far louder and wilder than anything heard before. Amidst this tsunami of noise, clutching your weathered acoustic guitar, you emerged slowly from the dark tunnel. You had no backup dancers, no flashy special effects, only a single, cold, white spotlight tracing the lines of your tall silhouette. You approached the microphone and settled onto the high stool. Inside the control room, Chen Kai stared at the monitor, his heart leaping into his throat. He slammed the intercom button. "Audio team, I am warning you, do not dare touch anything. If there is an issue with this set, I will see every single one of you in court." However, the only reply from the intercom was static. In a hidden corner beneath the stage, the audio director let out a cold sneer, glancing down at his phone. A bank transfer notification flashed on the screen. Without a shred of hesitation, he grabbed a fader on the mixing console and slammed it to the absolute bottom. Click! Seated in the center of the stage, the monitoring earpieces nestled in your ears suddenly emitted a sharp pop. In the following heartbeat, the earpieces that allowed you to hear your own breath and the arena acoustics went completely dead, plunging you into a void of silence. Your monitor feed had been severed. In a massive stadium holding 3,000 people, sound propagation creates a colossal lag and a chaotic web of echoes. Without those earpieces piping the accompaniment and your raw vocals back in real time, a singer standing on that stage becomes effectively blind and deaf. You cannot gauge your own pitch, nor can you lock onto the track's rhythm. It takes only a matter of seconds before the massive arena echo drags you completely off-key. Xingyao Media's under-the-table assassination attempt was as lethal as it was merciless. Your fingers rested upon the guitar strings, and beneath the mask, your brow furrowed. You drew a deep breath and attempted a soft, experimental cough. Still, the earpieces provided zero feedback. In that split second, you knew exactly what happened. Below you, the audience and judges sat in dead silence, blissfully unaware of the sabotage, waiting for your performance to start. If you were still that fragile person from the past, you might have panicked right there. Maybe you would have stopped to beg the crew for help, but you are not that man anymore. No, you are an Avenger carrying the legacy of Earth's brilliant civilization. Your lips curl into a bone-chilling smirk. Instead of signaling the crew to halt the show, you prepare to fight. You reach up in front of 3,000 people and countless cameras, ripping those expensive, custom-made monitor earpieces straight out of your ears. You toss them onto the floor without a second thought. What on earth is he doing? Ding Wei, sitting at the judge's table, catches that single movement and bolts upright in his seat. He ditched his monitors, singing without a feed in a venue like this. Has he completely lost his mind? Li Yuan's face goes pale as he gasps in shock. Inside the control room, Chenko witnesses the scene and squeezes his eyes shut in absolute despair. It is over. Everything is ruined. Yet, standing on that stage, You are plunged into a state of supernatural serenity. Without the constraints of those earpieces, the surrounding chaos fades. The acoustic echoes of the stadium and the collective breath of the crowd flood your senses. But you simply close your eyes, channeling every ounce of focus into the resonance within your own skull. Absolute pitch, paired with 10 years of muscle memory etched deep into your soul. You do not need a backing track, nor do you require electronic feedback. Your body itself is the instrument, the most precise, savage instrument in existence. Suddenly, your right hand rises, fingertips slicing into the guitar strings like a jagged blade. A somber, eerie intro drips with spine-chilling tension. It broadcasts through the microphone, detonating across the stadium sky. This isn't life in full bloom, nor is it some generic, broad rage. Instead, it is something darker, something lurking in a dark corner, a madness poised to shred all pretense. Then, your signature raspy voice, craved by millions, ignites without a single drop of electronic assistance. Your voice acts like a razor-sharp bayonet, stabbing with unerring precision into the heart of that grotesque melody. The moment your first lyric escapes, the entire arena freezes. It is too perfect. Your pitch is terrifyingly accurate down to the last hertz. Dingwei grips his armrest so hard his eyes look ready to burst from their sockets. How is this even possible, singing with zero monitor feedback inside a massive venue like this? How is he managing? His vocals latch onto the rhythm like a vice. Backstage, Hanjong, who was eagerly waiting for your downfall, feels the smug expression freeze on his face. Though he is just a half-baked idol propped up by corporate money, he knows enough about music to understand that watching you rip off your monitors with nothing but a battered acoustic guitar is a display of terrifying vocal power he could never dream of. This absolute control and overwhelming dominance weigh so heavily on him that he can barely breathe, sparking a primitive, desperate urge to fall to his knees. No, this is impossible. Didn't the audio crew cut his line? Han Zhong's voice trembles as he turns frantically toward his assistant, his suppressed emotions reaching a volatile breaking point. Suddenly, you snap your eyes open beneath that white geometric mask. Your gaze catches the refraction of the spotlights, igniting with a chilling, predatory brilliance. You bolt upright, fingers slashing violently across the strings to unleash a deafening, thunderous chord. Your entire aura explodes with world-shaking intensity as the song reaches its climax. The 3,000 spectators go absolutely feral. Countless people leap from their seats, covered in goosebumps, as tears involuntarily surge from their eyes. Nobody knows the name of this track or the history hidden behind your mask, but that soul-piercing resonance acts like a raging inferno, incinerating every ounce of pent-up sorrow. He is calling them out. He is using this song to wake up the entire industry. At the judges' table, industry veteran Yoki slams his fist down in excitement. This is terrifyingly good. Pop Queen Hanbin clutches her chest, heart hammering against her ribs. This level of raw emotional intensity and sheer vocal power is unreal. To sing without a single monitor feed and not miss a single breath. Is this even humanly possible? You sit on the high stool, chest heaving with exhaustion. You slowly lower your gaze, retrieving the abandoned earpieces from the floor. Then, you rise and walk to the edge of the stage, silencing the shocked crowd watching you. You take those custom headphones and toss them directly in front of the center camera lens. From beneath the mask, your low, raspy voice cuts through the air. This gear is broken, but I hope it is just the hardware that is rotten, not the heart. Boom. Those words detonate like a depth charge among the mentors. Senior critic Deng Wei bolts upright, snatching his own headset to listen to your feed. After just a few seconds of listening, the usually polite man turns absolutely livid. He slams his headphones onto the desk, grabs his microphone, and roars toward the control room. Audio crew, production team, what the hell do you think you are doing? In a high-stakes match like this, you dared to cut a contestant's monitor feed. The 3,000 spectators freeze for a heartbeat, then erupt into absolute rage. Sabotage. Cutting the feed. Have you no shame? Backstabbing time just to protect some talentless idol with these filthy tactics. Give us our money back. The crowd's furious roar nearly blows the roof off the stadium. Inside the control room, Chenka stares at the chaotic screens. His initial shock quickly gives way to pure ecstasy. He is alive. Not only did time refuse to collapse, but he used a god-tier performance to stomp Xingyao Media's assassination attempt into the dirt. He ripped away their lies in public. Director, What now? Do we kill the live broadcast? The assistant asks in a panic. Chenko slams his fist on the desk. Roaring with bloodshot eyes, he yells, "Cut the feed." Hell no, push every camera in. Give me a tight close-up on Time's face. Get a shot of those earpieces on the floor. If Xingyao Media wants to play dirty, I will play with them to the bitter end. Meanwhile, at corporate headquarters, Zhang Chen kicks over a glass coffee table in a rage. Shattering expensive bottles of wine, his face is pale as a ghost. His eyes overflow with unimaginable terror and madness. The man in the white mask on screen looks like a high and mighty god of life, delivering a crushing blow with one hand. It strips away all of Zhang Chen's dignity and vanity, leaving him utterly exposed. Useless, you are all freaking useless. Zhang Chen screams like a lunatic at Sister Hua in the middle of the office. I told you to find someone to destroy him, and this is the best you can do. You aren't ruining him, you're turning him into a legend. You're building his staircase back to the throne. Sister Hua's face goes pale. How could I know some indie kid could sing so perfectly without monitor feedback? It defies all logic, defies logic. It is because he is Lin Yan, because he is a complete monster. Zhang Chen violently clutches his own hair, collapsing helplessly onto the sofa. Just then, the office door is kicked open with a bang. The PR manager rushes in, drenched in sweat, his voice desperate and sobbing. President Zhang, Sister Hua, we have a massive disaster on our hands. Clips from the Vinyl Era livestream are leaked everywhere. The whole internet is hunting for Time, and the hashtag #CrossingYale is blowing up. It is rocket launching to the #1 trending spot. The PR team cannot stop the backlash. Darkness flashes before Yongchan's eyes. This 10-year revenge storm is here. It is only just beginning, yet he already feels its bone-chilling frost. At the AM, the city's neon lights bleed into the relentless autumn rain, blurring into hazy, distorted spots. Inside the penthouse boardroom of Shanghai Media, thick smoke swirls like a suffocating gas chamber. Over 20 core PR veterans were summoned tonight. The frantic clatter of keyboards sounds like rapid gunfire. On the colossal screen at the head of the table, social media charts scroll. We dropped 8 million on marketing shells to push Yongchan's overseas award, but the netizens are not biting. Every press release is flooded with tens of thousands of mocking comments. Everyone is comparing Yongchan's shaky vocals to Time's raw, earphoneless mastery. Sister Hua stands before the floor-to-ceiling window, the screen's blue glow making her look sinister. Where is Yongchan? President Young is trashing the lounge. He just brought the lead makeup artist to tears. Nobody dares go near him, the assistant replies cautiously. Sister Hua takes a deep breath and spins around, her predatory gaze sweeping across the room. If standard PR cannot suppress this song's heat, we destroy the man who sang it. Sister Hua marches to the table, leaning heavily on her hands. She speaks with lethal intent. A song is divine, but if the singer is a villain, a rat to stomp on, the public's fanaticism will instantly turn into moral fury. The PR director freezes. You mean? Sister Hua does not answer. She just tosses an encrypted USB onto the table. Half an hour ago, she used Crossing Yao's deepest connections to bypass Zhang Chen TV's executives and paid a king's ransom for the contestant's original file. Listen up. For the next 12 hours, mobilize every bot we own. Contact our partner influencers and gossip bloggers, synchronize the narrative, and expose Time's true identity. A cruel sneer curls on her lips. Tell the world that this music savior they worship is actually the same plagiarist from a decade ago. The industry scum blacklisted by the entire internet, Lin Yan. A collective gasp echoes through the room. Everyone here is a seasoned entertainment veteran. They know exactly what plagiarism means for a songwriter. It is an indelible stain, a capital sin that nails a man to the pillar of shame forever. Sister Hua's voice quickens, her eyes gleaming maliciously. Not only that, dig up all the evidence from 10 years ago, the overseas demo timestamps, the voice recordings, bundle it all into infographics. Buy the trending searches and headlines. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, I want the phrase, plagiarist dog Lin Yan, plastered across every single smartphone screen. A calculated internet massacre, orchestrated by the iron hand of capital, officially begins. At 4 a.m., while the city still slumbers, a monstrous tsunami is already ravaging the web. It begins when a top-tier music critic with 5 million followers posts a manifesto. He first praises the artistic value of exaggerated, only to pivot with lethal precision, expressing heartfelt grief as he unmasks the face behind time's disguise. The post includes meticulously paired body silhouettes, voice print analysis, and details of the decade-old plagiarism scandal. Immediately, hundreds of marketing accounts act as if on a unified command, swarming the platform to spread the news. Countless stitched images and out-of-context video edits fall like a downpour of filth, drenching the narrative, aimed directly at you, who just set the stage ablaze with brilliance. At 7 a.m., as commuters check their phones, the narrative has undergone a spine-chilling reversal. The casual fans who wept for exaggerated last night are now confronted by an avalanche of ironclad evidence, first falling into collective shock before spiraling into visceral, betrayed fury. The public psyche has always been fragile. Blind following can easily build a god, but once a stain is found, they want to smash that statue to pieces. One netizen writes, "I am actually going to gag. I posted that Time was a god last night, and it turns out he is just that plagiarist dog Lin Yan. I want to slap myself." Wearing a mask to act deep and brooding, he thinks a few songs can wash his record clean. Does the internet have no memory? Boycott Lin Yan. Boycott the vinyl era. Why is a disgraced artist even on TV? Get out of the entertainment industry. Listening to him makes my ears feel dirty. Stealing someone's life work for glory, then wearing a mask to cash in. Disgusting and shameless. In just a few hours, every drop of praise curdles into venomous curses. Cyber violence's boomerang spans a decade, returning with sharper blades, stabbing ruthlessly toward you. Early morning at the university housing, autumn rain taps against the glass with a rhythmic crackling sound. So King Yuan walks out of the kitchen with 2 glasses of warm milk, finding you on the balcony, staring calmly at the toxic comments scrolling across the screen. She walks over, handing you the warm beverage, her voice devoid of panic. It finally happened. 10 years of silent endurance had polished her heart into something indestructible. Crossing Yale Media moved faster than I anticipated. You take the milk, looking away from the screen toward the distant gray horizon. There is no anger in your eyes, only cold indifference. Young-chun is terrified. The more desperate he is to crucify me on that pillar of plagiarism, the more it proves he is terrified of what is coming in the next round. For this round, I have already had Professor Yu create a double backup of the decrypted underlying data. So King Yuan takes a sip of her milk, her tone unwavering. The moment you unmask Young-chun in the semifinals and expose the truth of what happened back then, every single one of these insults will turn into a blade that guts them. You shake your head slowly, a bone-chilling smirk playing on your lips. No rush, the heat is not intense enough yet. The higher capital fans the flames of public outrage, the more explosive the impact will be when the truth drops. I do not just want them to lose this musical war, I want them buried alive in the very court of public opinion where they feel invincible. Just then, the phone on the coffee table vibrates violently. Your voice drops an octave as you ask what they want. The caller panics, saying they are demanding your daughter Lin Yangson be expelled immediately because of the scandal. They refuse to let their kids share a room with a plagiarist child. Mr. Lin, please hurry. The guards cannot hold them back, and your daughter is crying in the corner. Your knuckles turn white, popping under the sheer pressure as cracks spread across your phone. Without another word, you hang up and end the call immediately. You spin around and storm out the door. Inside your dark eyes, a furious fire burns, hot enough to reduce the entire city to ashes as the sky opens. Sheets of heavy rain pour down, wrapping Jianqing in a gloomy mist. Outside the colorful gates of Sunflower Kindergarten, a sea of dozens of umbrellas blocks the path. An angry mob has completely blocked the entrance. Several luxury cars, usually used for school drops, are parked haphazardly across the road, triggering a massive traffic jam. They yell for you to drag yourself out. Why should their kids associate with a thief's daughter? Who is to say you will not teach her to steal, too? They shout that a disgraced artist's family deserves to be outcasts. This is your punishment. They demand to see the principal, threatening to escalate if they do not get answers. They threaten to report the school to the education board. Right at the front stands Zhang Chong's wife, her face heavily made up as she leads the protest. She holds a black designer umbrella with arrogant poise, pretending to champion parent rights. In reality, she is just fanning the flames of hatred against you. The moment the online news turned against you, she forwarded those vicious articles to the parent group chat, adding her own snide, passive-aggressive comments. These parents think they are the social elite. They display a toxic solidarity and an earned superiority whenever they find someone they can judge and destroy. They are desperate to kick you while you are down just to prove their own virtue. As the chaos peaks, some angry fathers prepare to force open the gates. Right then, you speak. Your low, raspy, bone-chilling voice cuts right through the heavy rain and the noisy crowd. Move. The command is not loud, but it carries a heavy, crushing weight that slams against their eardrums. The mob instantly goes silent, their heads snapping toward you through the heavy downpour. You stand there without an umbrella. Your black jacket is completely soaked, clinging to your tense, muscular shoulders as water drips heavily from your hair. It runs down your pale, freezing face. Your eyes, stripped of all human warmth, look like sharp bayonets as you coldly skin every single face in the crowd. You are not wearing your signature mask, but the raw aura radiating from your body is 10 times more terrifying than any of your dramatic on-stage performances. It is the look of a man whose ultimate boundary has been crossed, possessed by a wild madness. It is him, Lin Yan. Someone whispers. One of the loudest instigators shivers when your eyes lock onto his. He recoils a step, but feeling humiliated for flinching, he forces himself to stand firm. You showed up just in time, he sneers. You know exactly what kind of dirty things you did. Take your daughter and get out. Stop disgusting everyone. You do not even look at him. Like a lone wolf patrolling its territory, you stride forward. Wherever you step, the loud, arrogant parents fall silent. They are forced aside by your intense, invisible pressure, stumbling to the left and right. The crowd parts, clearing a direct path for you to walk through. You cross the wet playground and enter the school building. At the end of the hall is the classroom, its doors shut, but you see something through the window. The sight makes your heart shatter. Your sanity finally snaps, and you kick the heavy door open with absolute fury, slamming the wood hard against the wall. The deafening crash silences the room instantly. A few frightened children burst into tears from the shock. Ignoring them, you stride across the room like an angry god. You snatch a toy water gun from the bully's hands. With a sharp, violent twist of your wrist, you crush the plastic toy into splinters. Plastic shards scatter across the floor. The boy freezes in terror, falling backward and letting out a high-pitched shriek, but you ignore him completely. You march straight to the corner and drop to one knee, wrapping your arms around your trembling little girl. Jinxing, Daddy is here, do not be afraid. Your voice is thick and raspy. You cradle the back of her head, feeling her tiny body shake violently with fear as she lifts her tear-stained face. Her eyes are swollen and red. The moment she sees your face, she lets out a heart-wrenching sob, her tears mixing with the rain on your cheeks. It feels like a rusted blade is being twisted in your chest. You stayed hidden in the shadows for 10 long years, and for what? Just so your innocent daughter could suffer the ugliness of the adult world. It is okay, you whisper, Daddy is taking you home. You lift her up, holding her gently. You turn as the principal and teachers rush in, followed by the angry mob of parents who have forced their way inside. The bully's mother leads the charge. Seeing her son crying, she screams and lunges at you, shouting, How dare you touch my son, you plagiarist scum. Cradling your daughter, you stand up slowly. You do not explain yourself. You just stare the woman down with a cold, dead gaze. I did not touch him, you say, but right now, I am tempted to end you. The pure rage in your eyes is so terrifying that the woman suddenly chokes on her words. Her face goes completely pale as she stumbles backward, hiding behind the others. The principal wipes cold sweat from her forehead and cautiously steps toward you. Mr. Lin, things have escalated too far, she stammers. The public pressure is just too much for the school to handle at this point. The Education Bureau is already calling. For the sake of the other kids, and for your own daughter's well-being, could you please withdraw her voluntarily? Her polite words cannot hide the ugly truth. In a world run by money, even a school will throw an innocent 4-year-old under the bus to save themselves. They do not hesitate to push a child into the abyss just to please the crowd. This is their game, the vicious trap they set for you. Fine, you nod slowly, refusing to argue. Calm as a sleeping volcano, you turn your head to scan the room filled with parents watching you with disgust. I, Lin Yan, am taking my daughter home today. Cradling her tightly, you walk toward the exit, taking one slow, deliberate step after another. At the door, you stop, Without turning around, you tilt your head as your raspy voice echoes. But remember this, starting tomorrow, I will make everyone pay. With you and the manipulative forces behind the scenes, I said, kneel, both of you. Begged my daughter for forgiveness. Then I walked out into the downpour. I left that swamp of hypocrisy without a second glance. That night, at the June University faculty quarters, the heat was cranked high in the room. After a bowl of ginger soup from Yuan, I finally slept heavily, exhausted by terror. Yet even in her dreams, she clutched my finger tight, letting out soft sobs. I sat by the bed, watching her sleeping face, my eyes dark as the abyss. The phone in the living room suddenly shrieked. Yuan answered it, and after a few words, she covered the receiver. She hurried to the bedroom doorway, locking eyes with me. It's Chen Ka from Zhongcheng TV. He's on a private, encrypted line. I gently pulled my finger away, tucked my daughter in, and stepped out. Chen Ka's voice was gravely strained, almost lost in the chaos of people trashing the background. Lin Yan, it's really you, isn't it? Those online leaks, that scandal from 10 years ago. Yes, it's me. It's me. I offered no denial. 10 seconds of dead silence passed, then the heavy thud of a fist on a desk. The station just issued a kill order, he said. You've triggered a massive nationwide boycott. Monk and Singyao Media are threatening to pull their sponsorship. Director Lee demanded an official statement immediately, announcing your disqualification and blacklisting you across the entire industry. Again, I stayed silent. I knew exactly what this show meant to Chen Ke. It was his final stronghold against a twisted music industry. Now, because of me, that fortress was about to crumble. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. Go ahead, post the statement. I won't show up for the semifinals, I said in a low, resigned tone. After a few seconds, Chen Ke erupted on the other end, a raw, lung-bursting roar. Cut the crap. I didn't produce this damn show just to find someone who fits in. I wanted someone to sweep that industrial garbage into the trash bin. Maybe others don't know, but I saw the soul you poured into life, in full bloom, and the sheer desperation. I, Chen Ke, know better than anyone. I've been a director for 20 years, and I only give a damn about the art. I don't play by Capital's rules. His breathing was heavy, ragged. His voice was laced with the madness of a man burning his bridges. I already slapped my resignation letter onto Director Lee's face. They cut my budget and locked me out of my own studio, but so what? I've contacted a few of my old brothers in the industry. We spent all night in the outskirts of Chongqing, renting a warehouse at an abandoned heavy machinery plant. We're building our own stage and setting up our own live stream servers. Lin Yan, I don't care what happened 10 years ago. I only have one question for tomorrow night's semifinals, on a stage that belongs to you, and you alone. Do you have the guts to show up? My grip on the phone tightened violently, my knuckles turning a stark, ghostly white. I glanced at the closed bedroom door, then looked at my wife standing beside me, her eyes fixed on me with unwavering resolve. Yuan pulled out a sleek black USB drive and pressed it into my palm. It contained the decrypted source code evidence, powerful enough to drag Singular Media into the depths of hell. Tell them you're not just showing up. You're going to show them what a true god of music looks like. I curled my fingers tightly, crushing the USB drive in my palm as the ice in my eyes shattered completely, replaced by a prairie fire destined to consume everything. Director Chen, prep the highest spec audio equipment you have. Tomorrow night, I'm not just showing up. I'm finished with the mask under the name Lin Yang. I'm going to throw a funeral for the entire manopop industry. The abandoned heavy machinery factory on Zhongqing's western outskirts. The cold autumn rain finally ceased in the dead of night. This massive plant, dormant for over a decade, was riddled with gaping holes in the ceiling. Pale, cold moonlight leaked through the fissures, slicing mottled geometric patterns across the thick dust of the concrete floor. In the heart of the factory, dozens of temporary industrial searchlights emitted a blinding white glare, finally carving out a space upon this wasteland, carving out a pocket of blinding brilliance. No high-end LED displays, no million-dollar hydraulic lift systems, nothing but a backdrop cobbled together from massive weathered tarps, bolstered by a few rusted oil drums acting as the foundation. This was the new stage Shenka forged for the vinyl era semifinals, or rather, his final bastion against the manipulation of corporate overlords. A dozen young editors who followed Chen Katao in his mass resignation and his vision now labored with bloodshot eyes over final equipment checks. Most were barely out of college, their hearts still fueled by the idealistic flame of pure broadcast art. Last night, the moment the station ordered your burial and axed the show, Shenka hurled his badge across the office. This young crew didn't hesitate for a second, silently packing their gear to follow this madman director into this desolate ruin. A technician wearing thick-rimmed dark glasses looked up from a chaotic nest of cables, his voice raspy from a sleepless night. Director Chen, the rogue rooms on the 3 major streaming platforms are live, but Xingyao Media is definitely watching us. The second we go live, they'll pressure the platforms to nuke our stream immediately. Chenko stared intensely at the darkness of the stand-by screen on his monitor. Banning us takes a formal process. No matter how fast they move, we'll have at least a 15-minute window. He took a sharp breath, his gaze reflecting the resolve of someone who had burned his boats. 15 minutes is plenty to finish that song. At that precise moment, the heavy iron factory gates let out a bone-jarring screeching groan. A black off-roader pulled up outside, its headlights piercing through the dust of the plant. The door swung open and I stepped out with measured, unyielding strides. I walked into the searchlight-lit ruins. Su Qingyuan stepped out from the passenger seat, clutching a sleek silver high-performance laptop. Her expression was frigid and hyper-focused, resembling a commander prepared to press the nuclear button. "You're here," Chen Ke said, stepping forward, his gaze landing on my completely unmasked face. 10 years of hardship had carved traces of weathered experience into my features, yet it had also stripped away any former naivety or innocence. All that remained was a profound, cold hardness forged in the depths of the abyss. Is the gear ready? I glanced at the crude yet industrial heavy metal aesthetic of the stage, cutting straight to the chase. I handed a black USB drive to Chen Ke. "Here's the backing track. I produced the master file on my home computer last night. I don't need a live band. Just plug this directly into the main audio track." Chenka took the drive, his palm sweating slightly. He knew that within this tiny device lay a power capable of triggering a catastrophic tidal wave that would drown the entire mandapop industry. "Everything is set. King Yuan's laptop is already patched into our master control signal. No feed." Chenka glanced at Su Qingyuan standing nearby. "The moment you give the signal, those decrypted data logs she's holding will instantly override every single live stream feed." I nodded, my gaze shifting past Chen Ke to the camera lenses aimed directly at the center of the stage. "Director Chen, start the stream, 8 p.m. sharp." The internet's carnival of hate had reached its absolute peak. The hashtag #PLAGIARIST dog hashtag Lin Yan get out of the industry still held an iron grip on the #1 spot of every platform. The public's moral superiority had inflated to unprecedented levels, as if by cursing and boycotting a tainted artist, they could prove the nobility of their own souls. Right at that moment, countless gossip channels and rumor-hungry netizens suddenly noticed a mysterious broadcast room quietly popping up simultaneously across every major live streaming platform. The stream's title consisted of 8 simple, heavy words: "The Vinyl Era, Eternal Light Amid the Ruins." No official verification, no pre-show hype, and absolutely zero promotion. The thumbnail was just a crude, stark image of white text on a black void. But that name, the Vinyl Era, was the ultimate cheat code for viral traffic within 60 seconds. Like a shiver of sharks sensing fresh blood, millions of viewers swarmed into these unverified, rogue channels. The screens flickered to life, no dazzling spotlights, no massive stage production, only a dim, desolate, abandoned factory floor. Rusted steel girders cast chilling skeletal shadows under cold lights as the comments flooded in. A barrage of question marks flooded the chat. What is this? Where are they? Isn't the Vinyl Era supposed to be at Zhongcheng Stadium? What's with this creepy, abandoned factory? Did they get kicked out over the Lin Yan scandal? Wait, look, someone is on stage. A sharp, cold white spotlight snapped onto the center, and the comments froze. The screen froze for a heartbeat. It was you. You weren't wearing your signature white mask. No guitar. You simply gripped the stand of a vintage microphone with one hand. Your head was slightly bowed, dark hair shielding your eyes. But the sharp bridge of your nose and that cold, chiseled jawline were clearly visible on millions of smartphone screens. Memories from 10 years ago collided with the present. After a brief moment of shock, the screen exploded like a volcano with a vicious, toxic wave of counterattacks. It really is Lin Yan. How does he dare show his face? The sheer audacity is off the charts. Plagiarist dog, get off the stage. This whole production must be crazy. Didn't the station director say he was banned? How did they dare give him a live stream? Call the police. I'm reporting this broadcast right now for spreading toxic influence. Tell Lin Yan your daughter getting bullied is the karma you brought upon her, you failure. The screen was smothered in a deluge of filth, obscuring the video feed. Behind countless screens, faces twisted with malice, venting their pent-up frustration and bitterness without restraint. They unloaded everything onto the target they believed they could easily trample. Inside the desolate factory, you couldn't see the comments, but you could easily imagine exactly what kind of demonic chaos was currently unfolding across the entire web. You slowly raised your head, staring directly into the primary camera lens. In your deep, chilling eyes, there was no grievance, only the detached pity and mockery of a man looking down from the clouds at a swarm of ants. Then you spoke, your gravelly baritone voice delivering every syllable clearly into the ears of every single viewer. 10 years ago, you claimed I stole another man's soul and nailed me to shame. Yesterday, you took a 4-year-old girl's drawing board, crushing it while pointing at her face. Calling her a thief's daughter, you fashion yourselves as righteous judges, dancing to the baton waved by capital, reveling in your moral circus with a clear conscience. You release the stand and step back, a bone-chilling smirk curling on your lips. Since you're so obsessed with passing judgment, so eager to consume plastic pop made by corporate masters, tonight I will grant your wish right here. For the mandopop industry that has been dead for a decade, I will host a true funeral. Boom. This declaration of war, spitting directly in the faces of every online netizen, sent the chat room vitriol to a boiling point. Everyone hammered away at their keyboards, preparing to unleash even more venomous insults to drown out this arrogant plagiarist. But just before they could hit send, a bizarrely magnificent, eerie melody exploded without warning. It blared through every headphone and speaker. The pure sound of a classical guitar, but stripped of all warmth, heavily suppressed with a dark, heavy gothic harmony. It progressed like spectral footsteps echoing through a midnight castle, stomping step by step on the valance of every listener's heart. Then, a heavy, intensely metallic, underground rap beat crashed down like thunder, perfectly strangling that classical guitar. This was a dark mandopop arrangement style that had never existed before. Classical elegance and street-level brutality formed an auditory strike, acting like a black hole that instantly devoured all other noise. Millions of people froze. In front of their screens, viewers felt their fingers freeze mid-keystroke. How could this intro be so addictive? How could it have such a chillingly sophisticated vibe? Under the cold light, you slowly close your eyes, your body swaying to that uncanny rhythm. At the surgical beat drop, you raise the microphone. A lazy, raspy voice, dripping with mockery and dark charisma, pours from your lips. This is a masterpiece, a genuine dark fairy tale, a requiem meant to bury the past. Through your unique vocals, polished by 10 years of hardship, the song sheds its youthful melancholy and transforms into a cold, ruthless judgment. Within the first 10 seconds of your singing, the tidal wave of comments fell into a bizarre vacuum. The venomous insults they prepared choked in their throats. Every self-proclaimed internet judge, faced with this terrifying musical dominance, felt a primal invasion deep within their soul, like bloodthirsty ants lured by rotting flesh. It was a stinging slap directly to the face of every blind follower in this cyber witch hunt, who swarmed toward whatever bait corporate giants tossed out. How hauntingly similar to the lyrics. Inside the television stations, media headquarters, and major music labels, those professional music producers who were ready to mock and kick a man while he was down, along with the music critics, all rose from their chairs in unison, clutching their monitoring headphones. Their eyes were glued to the screen, staring at the man standing like a dark sovereign amid the ruins. Goosebumps erupted across their skin. This classical guitar arrangement as the main loop, layered with such heavy trap-infused classical elements, is this harmonic progression even humanly possible? He is a genius. No, this is a monster. How did he master such a rhythmic flow? This anti-traditional vocal delivery is so beautiful it hurts. He is actually using rap to manifest the tragic grandeur of a symphony. If this backing track were sold, it could sustain half the industry's lyricists. This is a total dimensional strike. While they are still researching how to use generic pop chords to pander to fanbases, you have arrived with a masterpiece to smash their industrial system into absolute smithereens. And now, the song pushes toward the chorus, the moment that will cause countless people to lose themselves completely. You snap your head up. Within your previously indifferent eyes, a spectral blue flame ignites. With a gravelly voice, you instantly pivot into a melodic vocal style, piercing with raw power. That divine, legendary chorus sound this world never dared to imagine stabbed through the night like a blade. As it reached a state of total, violent eruption, the silence in the live stream was finally shattered, replaced by a screen flooded with out-of-control exclamation marks and incoherent, frenzied screams of "Oh my God, my mind is literally blown, what kind of god-tier melody is this? Chopin has absolutely nothing on this. These lyrics are insane." So, the place where you are buried is called the Netherworld. Yes, is this really something a plagiarist dog could actually write? No way in hell. I don't believe it. I am so sorry I was screaming insults so loud just now. If this masterpiece is stolen, tell me who wrote it. I'll go bow to them right now. This is a pure, unadulterated dimensional strike. Compared to this nocturne, everything else on the trending charts is just straight noise. Inside the control zone of the abandoned factory, Chan Kai gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white, watching the viewer count skyrocket to 3 million, 5 million, 8 million. The servers for this rogue room were even starting to lag. No paid traffic, no promotional slots. The entire internet seemed lured by some irresistible dark magic, flooding into this crude live stream like a tidal wave. Director Chen, Xingyao Media is making their move. The editor monitoring the network suddenly shrieked. All three platforms just received a simultaneous ban order. The reason? Content featuring disgraced artists. They are about to kill our signal. Chen Kai's face paled as he whipped his head toward the corner where Su Qingyuan's finger hovered over the enter key. Su Qingyuan's ethereal, frosty face remained completely unruffled. She stared at the ban warnings flashing on screen, then glanced over at you on stage just as you sang the very last line of Nocturne. The timing was impeccable. With absolute resolve, her slender finger struck the enter key with immense force. Snap. Your live stream feed did not go dark. On the contrary, before the eyes of 8 million viewers, the footage of you on stage shrank to the bottom right corner, while the main screen suddenly flashed massive, crystal-clear high-definition images, some even bearing the official red seal of the John Chang Notary Office. The first image was raw backend server code from an independent North American music registration website. Within the screenshot, a string of modification logs was circled in glaring red. The date, April 12, 2016. The IP address, the internal network of Shanghai Media headquarters. The moment this image surfaced, comments praising Nocturne froze instantly. Every viewer's heart skipped a beat. April 2016. That was the exact window when, after winning Best Newcomer, you were accused of plagiarizing an underground American artist's demo. Then, the display automatically cycled to the second and third images, hammering the internet like a hurricane. Contained within those files were bank transfer records from Xingyao's PR department, detailing the purchase of fake overseas bot accounts. There were the equity structures of the victim artist, which was actually just an overseas shell company owned by Shanghai Media. The architecture of the Li was laid bare. There was even a 5-minute meeting recording, which had been meticulously recovered through technical means. Su Qingyuan patched this raw audio directly into the live stream's master audio track. After a faint hiss of static, the speakers blared the shrill and arrogant voice of a woman. It was Xingyao Media's chief agent, Sister Hua. That kid Lin Yan doesn't know his place. He refused to sign our slave contract. If we let him debut with the championship title, how will Young Chong survive in this industry? Since we can't own him, we destroy him. Then came the voice of Young Chong, his youthful tone dripping with envy and malice. Sister Hua, make sure the timeline for that fake overseas demo is clean. I want him stripped of that trophy and ensure he can never stand on his own feet again. The label of plagiarist dog is enough to nail him to the sewers forever. Don't worry, young master, the bot army is already in position. By tomorrow morning, I'll make the entire internet believe he's an unforgivable fraud. Netizens are the easiest to brainwash. As long as the volume is loud enough, the lie becomes the truth. The recording ended. plunging the stream into deathly silence. 8 million viewers felt as if their collective throats were being throttled. They forgot to breathe. This was the reality of the plagiarism scandal 10 years ago that dragged you into hell. This was the truth about the blacklisted artist whom they were still viciously insulting and boycotting yesterday. The man whose daughter's school they wanted to vandalize. This was the real story. You weren't the thief. The real thief was the one sitting on a high throne, worshipped by millions of fans, Jung Chong. It was the capital behind him, using the filthiest tactics to steal your 10 years of youth. Boom! If the melody of Nocturne was an auditory nuclear explosion, then these ironclad proofs were a billion-ton meteorite dropped directly onto the moral conscience and the very souls of the entire internet. The reckoning began, the realization that they had been played like fools for a decade, exploited by capital as nothing more than weapons of fury to hell with Xinjiao media. Jung Chong, you absolute monster, you stole 10 years of a man's life. Why aren't you rotting in hell? I am so sorry, Lin Yan, deeply sorry. I boycotted you yesterday. I am a total scumbag. I am crying, I cannot stop crying, seeing him perform a masterpiece like Nocturne in a decaying, wretched warehouse like this. Knowing how he endured these last 10 years is literally breaking my heart. Do you remember him holding his daughter at the school gates yesterday while people screamed filth at a 4-year-old? I hope this is a pure human tragedy. Corporate manipulation is terrifyingly evil. Ben Yungchong, investigate Xinjiao media. Clear Lin Yan's name. The comments flooded in at a velocity the human eye could no longer perceive, refreshing like a glitching nightmare. The livestream's viewer count was straight up breaking charts simultaneously across every major social media platform. Every smear campaign regarding your plagiarism was utterly annihilated within 5 short minutes by the overwhelming wrath of real netizens. Hashtag Yungchong forged evidence, hashtag Xinjiao media killers, hashtag Lin Yan 10-year injustice, hashtag Nocturne's ascension. Over a dozen tags blazing with deep crimson trending status dropped onto the charts like tactical nukes. The bot accounts that corporate capital spent tens of millions on were completely useless before this massive, mountain-collapsing wave of public indignation. They were merely paper boats in a hurricane, crushed into dust instantly. At that very second, inside the Xinjiao media headquarters, Jung Chong's face turned as pale as death. The crystal, whiskey glass in his hand hit the floor, shattering into 1,000 jagged shards. He collapsed limply onto the sofa, his entire body shaking like a leaf in the wind, shaking with violent, uncontrollable tremors. This is impossible. Those data logs were supposed to be incinerated years ago. How did they unearth them? And that Rickardinglo on Earth, who the hell recorded that in secret? Jung Chong's voice shrieked, high-pitched and shattered by absolute terror. Standing before him, Sister Hua had completely lost her usual cold composure. Her face was a ghastly shade of blue, cold sweat streaking through her heavy makeup. She gripped her phone as the company's legal team shouted on the line. Gone was her usual cold composure, her face turned a ghastly iron blue, cold sweat ruining her heavy makeup. She clutched her phone in a death grip as the company's legal team spoke on the other end. The entire team and PR department collapsed under a wave of frantic, desperate reports. It's over, it's all over, Sister Hua muttered, the phone slipping from her numb fingers. That evidence is too ironclad, she whispered. There was no room left to fight back, especially with that source code screenshot and the recording of them admitting to the frame-up. The police will launch a criminal probe once they file the case. Xinjiao media stock will crash the moment the market opens tomorrow, bringing total delisting risk. This isn't just about Jung Chong's ruined reputation. This is the end of the entire Xinjiao empire. Call the station. Pull the plug, kill the servers, cut the damn internet. Zhongqing barked like a lunatic, grabbing Sister Hua's shoulders and shaking her violently. It's useless, Sister Hua whispered in despair. This is a high-level hacker. They've hijacked the stream. Unless you physically blow up the servers of the 3 major platforms, no one can stop this broadcast. Inside the abandoned factory, the cold wind whistled through the rafters. You stood silently on the stage, watching the comments refresh at a manic pace. You watched those 10-year overdue apologies, and the truth finally coming to light. Your face showed no joy from being vindicated, nor the wild thrill of revenge. Your eyes remained calm like the deep, still waters of a bottomless well. It was heart-wrenching. You lowered the mic and walked to the stage's edge, offering a slow, deep bonnet to the camera, but to Chen Ke and the crew, who helped you complete this grand counterattack. Su Qingyuan shut her laptop and approached the stage, the two of you locking eyes across the flickering shadows. Is it over? She asked softly. You stepped down from the platform, walking toward your wife and taking her cool hand. In your deep, soulful eyes, a trace of warmth finally flickered. Yet, it was accompanied by a sharper, more resolute edge. No, the hunt has only just begun. For the tares they stole from Ching Ching, and the 10 years they took from you, simple infamy is nowhere near enough. You turned your head back toward the lens, your gaze becoming incredibly sharp, radiating an overwhelming predatory intensity. At the grand finale, will reveal the greatest masterpiece this world has ever seen. Zhang, prepare to meet your doom. The live stream froze at that exact moment, fading into a silent black screen. But the entire manhwa industry had been completely upended by those short 15 minutes of broadcasting, ushering in a brand new era. At 9 a.m., the copper bell of the stock exchange chimed on schedule. For the tens of thousands of Xingyao Media shareholders, it was a funeral knell ringing from hell. In under 3 seconds of trading, the K line representing Xingyao's stock price snapped like a broken kite string, bleeding a sickly green as it plummeted straight through the daily limit floor. Tens of billions in market value, built up over years, vanished into ash and smoke in an instant. Outside the Xingyao headquarters, the glass walls that usually sparkled with prestige now looked exceptionally bleak and desolate. Dozens of police vehicles with flashing lights barricaded every exit, as a swarm of financial crime detectives and notary officials strode purposefully into the lobby, clutching search warrants issued overnight by the court. Clear out the penthouse executive suite, an officer commanded with a cold wave of his hand. Two female officers stepped forward, snapping steel handcuffs around the wrists of Xingyao Media's chief agent, the infamous Sister Hua. The iron-fisted woman who reigned over the industry for a decade now had disheveled hair, her makeup washed away by cold sweat into grotesque, muddy streaks. Like a soulless, broken marionette, she was dragged out. Meanwhile, cowering in the corner of his leather sofa, Zhang stared with bloodshot eyes at the shattered, spider-web screen of the phone in his trembling hands. He hadn't been arrested yet because, in that frame-up 10 years ago, all transaction records were handled by Sister Hua under the company's name. From a legal standpoint, Zhang was just an unwitting beneficiary. But deep down, he knew better than anyone that while justice might be delayed, the public's judgment had already flayed him alive. His screen was flooded with hundreds of hateful messages from former fans. Those who once fought like fanatics to keep him on the charts were now using the most venomous insults to curse him. His fan page was flooded with hate, and the luxury brands he endorsed had, at 8 a.m. sharp, issued a wave of contract terminations. I haven't lost yet. I'm not done. I'm not dead yet. Zhang suddenly erupted into a manic, neurotic laugh, his voice raspy like sandpaper on wood. He lunged to his feet, shoving his assistant aside, and stumbled frantically into the restroom. He splashed freezing water against his pale, bloated face, forcing himself to calm down. As long as he could still sing and show off his musical genius, this forgetful, toxic industry would eventually welcome him back with open arms. He refused to let them nail him to the pillar of shame. 15 minutes later, a raw, unfiltered video devoid of any editing surfaced on Zhang dying social media page. In the footage, his eyes were sunken, radiating the desperate mania of a cornered beast. Glaring at the lens, he snarled, "Lin Yan, you used hackers to forge this evidence to destroy my company and my team. Fine, I'll take the hit, but don't think you can wash away your own filth from 10 years ago. You think you're a genius, weren't you going to hold a funeral on the stage of the vinyl era? Tonight at 8 p.m., at the Jiangqing Sports Center, on the grand finale stage, we will settle this live. No pre-recorded backing tracks, no production teams behind us. Just a single guitar and raw, live improvisation. If I lose, I will vanish from this industry forever and never touch music again. But if you are too cowardly to show up, or if you lose, it proves everything you sang last night was stolen garbage." The moment this video dropped, it was like pouring gasoline onto a raging fire. Damn, Zhang has lost his mind. He actually has the guts to challenge him. It's just a pathetic death struggle. Can't he see the massive gap between his talent and Lin Yan's? Maybe, but Zhang is still a classically trained prodigy. Live improv is a total wild card. If Lin Yan dodges, The origin of his hits will be questioned. Either way, tonight's grand finale is going to be the bloodiest night in the history of Mandopop. Public opinion swirled like a Category 5 hurricane. As for you, the target of this challenge, you remained completely silent across all public platforms. At 2 p.m., at the faculty housing of Jiancheng University, the autumn sunlight was glorious, sweeping away days of gloom. You were lounging in a rattan chair on the balcony, holding a soft velvet cloth, meticulously polishing the vintage Martin guitar that had been your sole companion for years. Your movements were light, your focus absolute, as if the storm outside couldn't touch this tiny sanctuary. Su Qingyuan approached with a plate of sliced fruit, setting it down on a small table. She studied your tranquil profile and whispered, "Director Chen just called." Because last night's stream went nuclear, dozens of premium sponsors came knocking this morning. They've not only covered the station/the budget, but still booked the massive Zhangjiang Sports Center for tonight's grand finale. 80,000 tickets sold out within 3 seconds of going live. You stopped polishing and gently plucked a string, letting a crisp, resonant note ring out. Director Chen knows about Yun Chong's challenge, and is asking if you want to change the rules. Live improvisation is a tightrope walk for any vocalist. If Crossing Yao hired ghostwriters to prep a song beforehand for him to memorize, you will be at a massive disadvantage. Su Qingyuan's tone carried a hint of logical apprehension as she spoke. You looked up, the autumn sun reflecting in your calm eyes, showing not a single ripple of emotion. No need to change a thing. Let him come. You pulled the guitar into your arms, your fingertips drumming softly against the wooden body as a cold, indifferent smirk curled on your lips. When an insect is thrashing at the edge of the abyss, the more you try to stop it, the more it believes it can survive. Only when he leaps with all his strength, only to realize he is facing a mountain that can never be scaled, will his spirit truly shatter. You turned your head, watching your daughter quietly drawing on the living room carpet. The little girl did not go to kindergarten today, but she was in high spirits. On her drawing board, she had sketched a Superman dad defeating a monster. 10 years ago, he stole what was yours. Tonight, you will take it back before the whole world. You will take his arrogance, his final trump card, and everything he takes pride in, crushing it all bit by bit. 7:30 p.m., the Zhangjiang Sports Center. This colossal venue, capable of holding 80,000 people, was completely submerged in a sea of humanity. There were no glowing fan signs, no organized chants or slogans, but the sheer thermal energy and suppressed restlessness from 80,000 souls gathered together was enough to make any performer on stage feel their knees turn to jelly. Outside the venue, countless fans unable to enter huddled before the giant screens in the square. Online, the live streams on various platforms saw concurrent viewer counts shatter a terrifying 50 million milestone, and it was still skyrocketing by the millions every minute. Tonight is not just the grand finale of a talent show, it is the ultimate reckoning for a decade of grudges in the Mandopop world. Backstage in the waiting room, Chenka paced back and forth with frayed nerves, his eyes sunken from exhaustion, but flickering with a light bordering on fanatical. He glanced at you resting on the sofa with your eyes closed, then at the wall clock. Lin Yan, Yung Chong has arrived. He brought nothing but a single guitar. No entourage, no staff. Chenka took a sharp, deep breath, lowering his voice. He muttered, "I had my people look into him." In the last 48 hours, he secretly met with several legendary independent arrangers from the underground scene. This so-called improvisation of his is almost certainly just him cashing in on half-finished tracks written by others. You slowly opened your eyes and sat up. It does not matter. The time has come. Director Chen opened the floodgates. At 8 p.m. sharp, the 8 massive searchlights hovering above the sports center extinguished, and the entire arena was plunged into a pitch-black, suffocating darkness. Then, behind the main stage, the colossal 60-meter LED screen ignited instantly. There were no flashy opening dance numbers, and no tedious, long-winded host introductions. On the screen, only 2 rows of bold characters appeared. The endgame, Yanchong versus Lin Yan. Boom. The emotions of 80,000 people were ignited at that very second. A massive sonic wave swept the arena like a tsunami, vibrating the steel skeleton of the entire stadium. It began to tremble. This was not just cheering. It was a fanatical craving for the truth. The lifts at both ends of the stage hummed to life. On the left, Yung Chong carried an electric guitar. His face was as pale as a corpse, but his eyes glinted like a starving, cornered Volf. Deadlocked on the right side of the stage, you held that battered old Martin guitar. Your expression was as serene as a bottomless, lightless lake. The two of you stood barely 10 meters apart at center stage, a decade of lost time compressing into an infinite point. All the grudges, frame-ups, and years of quiet endurance transformed into static tension crackling between you. Lin Yan, you finally grew a spine and took off that mask, Yung Chang sneered. I thought you were going to hide in that white shell like a pathetic coward forever. Yung Chang leaned into the vintage microphone, his raspy, jagged voice accompanied by a provocative, sneering grin. You did not even deign to look up while calmly tuning your guitar strings. You indifferently tossed a single line into the mic. Against the likes of you, no mask is required. Cut the chatter. You set the rules. That absolute, lofty dismissal, that utter coldness treating Yung Chang as non-existent was like a white-hot steel needle plunging deep into his already fragile ego. Fine. Quite the ego, Yung Chang gritted his teeth, turning to face the audience and the cameras. The rules tonight are simple. The giant screen will scroll through keywords sent by these 80,000 spectators in the chat. When I call stop, whatever word is hit becomes our mandatory theme. Using only the guitars in our hands, we must compose and perform an original piece on the spot, no shorter than 2 minutes. If someone chokes, or if their song is utter garbage, they will kneel on this stage and quit music forever. The crowd erupted. The stakes were brutal, a move designed to strip away a singer's dignity and leave nothing but a raw, naked bayonet fight. Yet you remained as unruffled as ever, even taking a casual step back to yield the center of the stage. Fine. Since you initiated the challenge, you go first. Yung Chang took a heavy breath, a flash of triumphant malice flickering in his eyes as he swept his hand toward the display. The keywords on the massive screen began to blur at a dizzying velocity, scrolling manically. Stop! Yung Chang bellowed at the top of his lungs. The screen froze instantly, displaying two massive, bold characters, Abyss. Upon seeing the word, the corner of Yung Chang's mouth curled into a barely perceptible, icy smirk. Everything was proceeding according to his design. This specific word was the core of the unfinished track he had purchased for a fortune from those underground ghostwriters. He snatched the microphone toward him, his fingers violently raking across the electric strings. The piercing shriek of the distortion pedal detonated across the arena. Yung Chang squeezed his eyes shut, launching into his meticulously rehearsed spontaneous creation. To be brutally honest, setting aside his atrocious character, Yung Chang's stage presence and performance power clearly benefited from years of high-level refinement. The composition he had purchased boasted a sophisticated chord progression, heavy with post-rock oppression and despair. He roared with a borderline manic intensity, perfectly channeling the agony of a soul struggling in the dark and abandoned by the universe. I gaze at the stars from the depths of the abyss, vowing to tear the night apart even if I am crushed to dust. The 2.5-minute performance concluded, leaving Yung Chang gasping and drenched in sweat. The fading hum of the electric guitar vibrated in the air as a fleeting silence fell over the massive audience. Even though everyone loathed Yung Chang, they had to admit that under such extreme pressure, delivering a work with this level of polish and emotional density proved he was not just a pretty boy idol without substance. Yung Chang savored this brief moment of awe, then whipped his head around, fixing you with the triumphant glare of a victor. His eyes were venomous. Your turn, genius. Let's see if, without those prepackaged, bizarre arrangements, you can actually keep your seat on that divine throne. You ignored his frantic barking and stepped forward. You did not even glance at the screen, simply hoisting the strap of your vintage Martin. With the guitar over your shoulder, your deep, enigmatic eyes slowly scanned the 80,000 faces below, all filled with anticipation, tension, and an unease. You don't understand the first thing about the abyss. Your voice was soft, yet through the top-tier sound system, it echoed with crystal clarity in every ear. Lowering your gaze, your left hand gripped the guitar's fretboard. The true abyss isn't some shallow, performative roar. It's when you stare into the darkness and realize it's staring back with solemn majesty, preparing to devour your very soul. As your words faded, your right thumb lightly plucked the lowest D string. It was an incredibly deep, resonant note, a pure acoustic bass tone that felt as though it originated from a cathedral basement, completely free of electronic distortion. It echoed like an ancient funeral knell, thundering within the chests of all 80,000 spectators. Then, Your hands unleashed a fingerstyle arrangement across the fretboard that bordered on the supernaturally sophisticated fusion of classical finger-rolling techniques and aggressive flamenco strumming. The melody lacked John Chung's forced, artificial aggression. Even the sound of breathing was stifled by this invisible, crushing pressure. At the judges' table, critic Ding Wei yanked off his glasses, staring intently at your fingers flying across the strings, his lips trembling uncontrollably. What kind of harmonic progression is this? It is a minor key, but laced with augmented fourths and diminished fifths. These intervals are extremely dissonant, yet he uses classical fingerings to give them a divine sanctity. This isn't something improvised on a whim. This is a system so mature it belongs in a conservatory textbook as a unique harmonic framework. Just as the audience was paralyzed by the solemn, dark melody, you leaned into the microphone. You didn't scream like Yung Chong. Instead, with a tone exceptionally low and heavy, as if reciting some ancient, forbidden scripture, you began your legendary impromptu rap. This was the absolute zenith of the manhwa world, an unparalleled masterpiece that once captured the ears of 800 million people across Asia in a single day. In the name of the Father. Stripped of the original's grandiose orchestral swell and the haunting operatic soprano backdrop, relying solely on your acoustic guitar. You used your own voice, a voice tempered and refined by 10 years in the abyss, to carry the weight of this song's massive, suffocatingly dark narrative. Jungkook stood at the far end of the stage, his arrogant sneer freezing into a mask of horror the instant the first lyric left your lips. It was as if he'd been doused in glacial water, his very blood flowing backward. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The sheer difficulty of improvisation lies in logical coherence and instant melodic hooks, yet the half-baked lyrics Yung Chong had purchased were mostly hollow emotional outbursts. But what was this masterpiece you were performing? The vivid imagery within these lyrics, the epic narrative scope, and that borderline pathological sense of fatalism. Could this be the product of someone thinking on their feet? As the aria-like chorus poured from your soul, the very roof of the sports center seemed to be torn away by this colossal, tragic power. There was no desperate screaming, no frantic hysteria, only the desolate clarity of one who has peered through life, death, and sin. Among the 80,000 people in attendance, countless souls in this very heartbeat broke into cold shivers. For the 50 million viewers streaming online, the comments section went completely silent for 10 seconds. Faced with this dimensional strike level of musical dominance, everyone lost the ability to speak. This chasm was no longer something mere technique or raw talent could ever hope to bridge. This was the gap between a mortal and a god, between a mass-produced plastic toy and a masterpiece carved in the halls of the Louvre. Yung Chong's body began to tremble uncontrollably. The electric guitar in his grip suddenly felt like a white-hot branding iron, searing his hands. He understood. As a former conservatory student, he knew the sheer weight and caliber of this song. And because he understood, his inner defenses were being utterly obliterated like dry leaves in a storm. In the presence of this anthem, the abyss track he was so proud of sounded like the incoherent babbling of a toddler rolling in mud. This is impossible. You're cheating. You must have prepared this. Yung Chong muttered to himself, his eyes losing focus. He lunged toward the microphone with reckless abandon, bellowing at the entire arena like a lunatic. Listen, it's unfair. There's no way you didn't write these lyrics beforehand. No one on this planet could possibly produce something like this within 60 seconds of the word abyss being chosen. You're a fraud. Suddenly, your fingers clamped down on the strings. The music cut off with lethal precision. Inside the colossal venue, only Jungkook's frantic, humiliated shrieks echoed. Then, from the ocean of spectators below, a world-shaking wave of boos erupted. If you can't handle the loss, then get out, Yung Chong, you absolute failure. Calling it a cheat just because you're outclassed. Do you think everyone's a talentless hack who lives like a thief by stealing from others? Get out, get out. The roar of 80,000 voices coalesced into a physical wall of sound, slamming violently against his face. You stood before the vintage microphone, gazing coldly at your former nemesis who had now spiraled into complete hysteria. You weren't angry. Instead, your gaze held a flicker of cold pity. Since you think I don't deserve that theme, let's play something even more undeniable. You turned your head to face the 80,000 spectators. Every single word that crosses your mind, throw them onto that giant screen. I don't care what the theme is, 10 words or even 100, it makes no difference. I'll stand my ground right here, playing them one by one until Young Chong finally admits defeat and drops to his knees. This one declaration instantly ignited the atmosphere, pushing the crowd into an unprecedented frenzy. Talk about absolute arrogance. This was the divine arrogance of a god. You doubt my preparation, fine. Let all 80,000 of you set the exam. The keywords on the massive screen suddenly cascaded down like a manic waterfall. Ordinary, struggle, youth, farewell, flight, 10 years. Countless words danced on the display. You didn't even cast a single glance at the screen. Closing your eyes, your fingers once again brushed the strings. The dark oppression of In the Name of the Father vanished, replaced by a serene, crystal-clear strumming rhythm, sounding like a lonely traveler on a desolate highway. Facing the word ordinary flashing on the screen, you performed the ordinary road, channeling that raw, weathered worldliness that comes after the storm. It was so moving that countless grown men in their 30s were left weeping in the stands. As the song faded, the screen froze on flight. Without a second's hesitation, your fingerstyles shifted instantly. A soaring, defiant melody of unyielding struggle pierced the air. I'm just a tiny, tiny bird trying to fly, but I can't reach the sky. Those gut-wrenching high notes and that soul-piercing cry for freedom sent Yung Chong stumbling back in terror until he collapsed onto the stage. Suddenly, the screen switched to 10 years. You took a deep, heavy breath, memories of a decade ago flooding back. That night, blinded by the flash of 1,000 cameras, rushed back memory of that cramped, dingy rental. When Su Chengyuan gripped your hand, whispering I believe you, you remembered your daughter's ruined drawing board at the school gate. A whole decade converged right now. Pouring into your fingertips, you abandoned all complex techniques and flashy tricks. You unleashed the simplest, most violent strumming, hammering the guitar's body with pure, raw power. It was the sound of a heart torn out and burned in a roaring fire. Today I watched the snow drift through the cold night, wandering far away with a frozen heart. This was boundless oceans, vast skies, a weapon of pure defiance. It was the ultimate anthem for anyone chasing their dreams, refusing to bow even if ground to dust. You refused to bow your head as your gritty, soul-stirring voice echoed across 80,000 fans, roaring, forgive me for my wild love of freedom, and fearing I might fall one day. The entire arena lost control. Countless people leapt to their feet. Even if they couldn't understand the Cantonese lyrics, the emotional impact on their souls was absolute. That powerful energy of shattering the darkness to welcome the dawn felt like a heavy rain, washing over everyone's spirit. But as the final note rang out, a steel string snapped. Unable to survive the intensity of your furious strumming, a string on your Martin guitar shattered. But you didn't stop. Using the remaining 5 strings, you hammered down. You struck the final, heavy chord. The resonance hung in the air, tragic and epic like spilled blood. John Jung sat paralyzed, his electric guitar cast aside long ago. He stared blankly at you standing tall at center stage like an uncheckable god. All of his defenses, hollow pride and petty jealousy, when faced with these 3 absolute, dimension-shattering masterpieces, were ground into dust. He knew it was over. Not just his reputation, the very essence of his musical soul had been torn to shreds. By you, lived before the entire world. You. You win, John Jung whispered, his knees finally buckling as he collapsed onto the frozen stage. He buried his face in his hands. Right then, a squad of uniformed police officers burst through the backstage doors, their leader's face like carved stone. He marched straight to the kneeling John Jung and produced an arrest warrant. John Jung, you are under arrest for a decade-old fraud case and hiring illegal hackers. Along with recent charges of malicious provocation, you are going into custody. Your manager already sang like a bird. Let's go. The cold handcuffs snapped shut. Around John Chung's trembling wrists, the once invincible Prince of Crossing Yao now looked like a spineless dog, hauled up by 2 officers under the contemptuous gaze of 80,000 people. He was dragged off, never to return. You watched silently as John Jung vanished down the tunnel, then set your guitar aside and looked toward the VIP seats. Right at the front stood Su Chengyuan, eyes filled with tears, cradling your sleeping daughter, crossing. Gazing at you, now radiating godlike brilliance, she wore the most relieved, beautiful smile she had shown in 10 long years. You smiled back. The gentle, quiet teacher Lin and the untamable music giant had finally fused into one. The dawn has arrived. Your era has finally risen from the ashes. John Jung, Detention Center Interrogation Room 1. Harsh, Sterile fluorescent lights glared from above, making the cold, metallic room look blindingly clinical. On the wall, the electronic clock ticked with a heavy, rhythmic beat, each second feeling like a dull blade sawing at his nerves. John Jung sat bound to an iron chair, his wrists locked in cold steel. In less than 48 short hours, the once invincible stage star who couldn't leave home without for assistance, the crossing Yale media prince, was completely reduced to a hollow, soulless shell. His once styled hair now clung to his scalp like dead weeds, his eyes sunken, his jaw covered in thick, messy stubble. John Jung, this is the signed confession from your director and lead agent, Sister Hua. The veteran detective sitting opposite him slammed a thick stack of files down, making a heavy thud. The detective's gaze pierced straight into John Chung's clouded eyes. 10 years ago, you conspired with overseas technicians to illegally tamper with server timestamps on the North American music site, forging evidence of Lin Yan's plagiarism. You then unleashed a massive army of internet trolls for organized online harassment. And 3 days ago, you ordered others to sabotage the audio equipment at Yongqing TV, trying to incite a fresh wave of cyberbullying against Lin Yan and his family. The detective tapped the desk. Every transaction, every hacker's IP address, and even your meeting recordings are on it. The evidence chain is airtight. Do you have anything to say? John Jung looked up blankly at the mountain of incriminating evidence. He parted his dry, cracked lips, and a sound like a broken bellows escaped his throat, a raspy, hysterical laugh that grew until tears streamed down his face. Add, what is left to add? John Jung shook his head, laughing wildly as his handcuffs rattled. I lost. I have been stripped of everything. I spent a decade, mobilized billions in capital, and kept a team of hundreds. And the result, nothing. Absolutely nothing I did could match him casually plucking a few strings on that stage. He lunged forward with a jerk, his violent movement making the iron chair screech against the floor. He glared intensely at the detective, his eyes filled with madness. Do you have any idea how that feels? 10 years ago, we entered that show together. I practiced until I coughed up blood. I hired the best vocal coaches, bought the most expensive arrangements. But the second Lin Yan opened his mouth, everyone stopped seeing me. He was a nobody who taught himself basic notation. Why him? How on earth could his mind hold so many god-tier melodies? John Chung's voice spiraled into hysterical, soul-crushing despair. I thought if I destroyed him, if I banned him from the industry forever, I could finally become a god. But I was dead wrong. A fraud is always a fraud. Hearing him sing Nocturne in that ruined factory, I knew I was destined to rot in his shadow. The veteran detective watched cold-faced before snapping the case file shut. You didn't lose to a genius. You lost to your own wretched greed. Extinguishing someone else's light won't make yours shine any brighter. Sign it. John Chung's hand trembled as he took the pen, knowing his era was over. His hollow age of fake success, built entirely on dirty money, had reached its end. At that exact moment, at the Yongqing University faculty housing, the sweet-scented osmanthus flowers were in full bloom. A rich fragrance drifted through the window into the living room. On the coffee table, your phone began to vibrate once again. The caller IDs flashing on the screen came from every corner of the nation, top-tier labels, high-ranking executives from the major streaming giants, and world-renowned music festivals. But you sat on the carpet with a screwdriver, completely focused on helping your daughter. Xing Xing was fixing a toy car with a jammed wheel. As for that phone ringing off the hook, you did not even spare it a single glance. Qing Yuan, set to more places tonight. This kid and I are drinking until we drop, he bellowed. Chen Ke made a beeline for the dining room, slamming the booze and meat onto the table. Su Qingyuan emerged from the kitchen, carrying 2 plates of freshly cooked, home-style food. Observing Chen Ke's boisterous energy, she could not help but chuckle. Director Chen, you are currently the hottest name in the entire domestic variety show industry. Streaming platforms are practically lining up, waving blank checks to hire you as their chief director. Why are you still drinking $10 rotgut? Chen Ke expertly bit off the bottle cap with his teeth, pouring himself a brimming, overflowing glass. To hell with those checks, Xing Yuan. Those capitalists see Xing Yao crumbling and just want to rebrand the same old garbage to keep playing their money-grubbing games. As for me, in this lifetime, nothing pisses me off more than being a corporate puppet. Once this season of the vinyl era wraps, I am going to do exactly what I want and launch my own independent studio. I am going to scour the country for those broke kids who cannot even afford a decent guitar, but have pure, raw talent in their souls. You set the toy car down, brushed the dust off your palms, and pulled up a chair at the dining table. You hoisted that slightly chipped glass tumbler and clinked it heavily against Chen K's. The harsh liquor seared your throat like an inferno, yet the sensation felt incredibly liberating. Chen Ke swallowed a mouthful of braised beef, his eyes burning as he fixed his gaze on you. Lin Yan, when I was heading up just now, I spotted several guys in sharp suits clutching briefcases down at the entrance of your building. One look was all it took. Copyright agents from the major labels. Word on the street is some tycoon in the capital has offered a staggering $100 million signing bonus, plus absolute creative freedom to launch your own imprint. What is your move? Upon hearing this, Su Qingyuan also paused her movements, silently watching her husband. You tossed a single peanut into your mouth, savoring the crunch as your gaze drifted through the floor-to-ceiling window toward the vast, azure autumn sky. Director Chen, do you remember 10 years ago exactly why Xingyao Media targeted me? Chen Ke froze for a second. Because you were in Zhang Chong's way, and you rejected that predatory 10-year contract. You nodded slowly. Exactly 10 years ago, I refused to be a puppet on a string. 10 years later, that has not changed a bit. You turned to look at Chen Ke, your deep eyes radiating the absolute clarity of a man who has seen it all. The nature of capital is pure profit. They are willing to drop 100 million today only because they believe I can squeeze out $1 billion in returns. The moment I sign that paper, my music is no longer pure art. It becomes a commodity calculated by return on investment. You tapped your template vault where the radiant civilizations of an entire planet lay hidden. The melodies inside my head are meant to cleanse the soul, not pad their annual fiscal reports. I will not sign with any label, and I will not accept a single cent of investment. From here on out, I am launching a solo independent studio. I will write the songs and record the tracks. Xingyuan will handle the distribution. No middleman, no corporate manipulation. As long as there is a single listener left, I will keep singing my heart out. And if the day comes when no one listens, I will just sit on the balcony and play for Qingyuan and Qingshan. That is more than enough. Chen Ke's hand holding the glass froze midair. For 30 long seconds, he remained motionless, before suddenly tilting his head back and draining the erguotu in a single, defiant gulp. Legendary, his eyes were slightly bloodshot as he slammed a heavy hand onto your shoulder. Now this is what I call true, freaking freedom. Come on, let us have another toast to this cursed yet enchanting music. After the feast was over, at 3 p.m., Yuan Suqingyuan, dressed in your best attire, held Xingxing's small hand, and the three of you walked out of the faculty compound. Today was the day you would head to Sunflower Kindergarten to finalize the official withdrawal papers, even though the principal had personally visited and apologized 3 times after the grand finale. Groveling in the dirt with a humble attitude, both you and Suqingyuan had resolved that you would never let your daughter remain in an environment so steeped in hypocrisy and elitism. Just as you reached the colorful iron gates of the school, your footsteps came to an abrupt halt. The usually spacious street was now teeming with people. Now, every single one of them stood with heads bowed low, clutching expensive, imported fruits, limited edition toy sets, and some even held thick red envelopes stuffed with cash. As they saw your family approaching, a visible tremor of commotion rippled through the crowd. That woman who had once barked the loudest, the pathetic sycophant of Zhang Chong's wife, was now standing there, her face plastered with a fawning smile that looked worse than crying. Teacher Lin and Mrs. Lin, what happened before was truly a massive misunderstanding. The woman stammered through her words, clumsily thrusting a massive, exquisitely packaged Barbie doll toward Xingxing. It was all our fault. We were blinded by those unscrupulous media hacks at Xingyao Media and said those terrible, idiotic things. Everyone is gathered here today because we specifically came to offer our sincerest apologies to you and little Xingxing. Please show us some mercy, don't stoop to our pathetic level. The other parents chimed in, one after another, each of them bowing their heads, their voices dripping with forced humility. This is the reality of the adult world. Seeking benefit and dodging harm is etched into their very bones. When they realized the speck of mud they had once trampled so callously was actually a god suspended high in the 9 heavens, their primal fear of the unknown and awe of true power forced them to discard every last shred of their dignity without hesitation. You watched this group with cold detachment. There was no thrill of revenge in your eyes, only a profound sense of exhaustion. You did not reach for the luxury toy, but instead knelt down to meet your daughter's gaze. Xing Xing, these people say they have done wrong and want to apologize to you. Are you willing to forgive them? Xing Xing blinked her large, innocent eyes, looking at the auntie with the fake, plastered smile, then at the mountain of colorful toys. The little girl shook her head. I don't like your toys. Xing Xing's voice was tender yet exceptionally clear. You broke my drawing board, and you said mean things to my daddy. My daddy is the best person in the whole world. He is not a thief. Teacher taught us to say sorry when we are wrong, but you were so scary when you were shouting. Xing Xing is still very, very scared. The woman in the Chanel suit felt her fawning smile freeze instantly. Her face turned shades of green and white, wishing the earth would open up and swallow her whole. You rose to your feet, pulling your daughter into your embrace, shielding her head with a broad, protective palm. You all heard her. My daughter does not forgive you. Do not force your hollow adult pleasantries and self-righteous attempts at compensation upon a 4-year-old child. You're only standing here apologizing today, not because you have truly recognized your sins, but because you fear my current influence and think I will retaliate against you. Your gaze swept over them like a razor-sharp blade. Take your gifts and leave. I, Lin Yan, will not stoop to using cyber violence against you, simply because I find the method too filthy. Take your elitism and keep your arrogance far away from my daughter. That is the ultimate apology you can offer. Saying your piece, you share a warm smile with Su Chengyuan. The two of you do not spare another glance at that group of shocked, frozen parents, walking straight into the kindergarten. Inside the principal's office, you decisively sign the withdrawal papers. The street is bustling with life. An old man pushing a tricycle bellows out a long, rhythmic cry for roasted sweet potatoes. College students on shared bikes glide past you with light-hearted energy. In the distance, the low, resonant foghorn of a ship echoes from the river. This is the most authentic, vibrant pulse of the world. Your left hand holds Su Chengyuan's cool, soft fingers, while your right is gripped tightly by crossing. Hubby, Professor Chen mentioned he found a small school in the suburbs with an independent courtyard. The teachers there actually understand education. I will take crossing to see it next week, Su Chengyuan says softly. Good, you decide. You nod with a gentle little smile. Suddenly, Su Chengyuan halts her steps, a playful, mischievous glint sparkling within her clear, cool eyes. You snapped a string on stage last night, so that Martin guitar needs to go in for maintenance. Coincidentally, I passed a music shop yesterday and spotted a custom, handcrafted acoustic guitar. Is a certain newly crowned god of music prepared to receive his royal gift? I will gift you a custom guitar. You cannot see it yet. You blank for a moment, then let out a helpless chuckle, wrapping both your wife and daughter in a warm, broad embrace. A decade of biting wines and frost, 10 years of silent endurance and suppression. You once stared into the abyss from the deepest shadows, yet you were crowned a god on the most dazzling stage. But only now do you truly understand that the most magnificent melody in existence is not some era-defining masterpiece, but the steady, peaceful breathing of these two by your side. Resting your chin on your wife's shoulder, you inhale the faint, fresh scent of her shampoo. King Yuan, once things settle down, let us take crossing on a trip. It is time to make up for the honeymoon I have owed you for 10 years. Yay, crossing wants to see the big whales in the ocean. The little girl, sandwich it between you, pokes her head out with pure excitement, weight holding her tiny hands, mimicking a big whale's call. The family of 3 grips each other's hands tightly, facing the gorgeous, radiant sunset of Jiangcheng along the boulevard carpeted in golden leaves. You walk forward with firm, steady steps, faintly carried by the evening breeze. A low, raspy yet infinitely tender humming can be heard. It is a brand new melody this parallel universe has never heard before, clean and pure like the scent of rice fields as waves of green brush the village. This is not the end of the story. On the contrary, the saga of Lin Yan, the legend of pure, untainted music, has only just begun to unfold on this ordinary, sun-drenched boulevard.